Okay. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome one and all to yet another episode of WhickTV. How's everyone doing on this happy Wednesday? So first of all, um, sorry for no stream yesterday. I decided to take off and beat Baldur's Gate for the first time. That was fun. I enjoyed it. I spent 8 hours just gaming, so it was really cool. Haven't done that in a minute. And yeah, so again, sorry I wasn't live on stream, but I wanted some thank you, audience. For that. How's everyone going? Hello, IRL 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙, NoCal Mike, Cernus. Nice to see you, Cernus, with Rights or Moral Fiction. Well, we'll get into it, I guess. IRL 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙 says, Whick male loneliness panels almost always only engage with wah, I can't get pussy combos with lol-cal surface engagement. I vote no rights for Whick until he does serious invites or full. Like, what do you want me to do? I bring on a wide variety of guests on these topics. That's what they want to talk about because that's what people are talking about. It's not like that. You say that's a surface level engagement of it, but I think that is an important aspect of it that we need to. But anyway, I have guests today. Hi, Fairy Queen. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
So far, so good. Still plenty of time for things to go wrong. We're here. We're doing call-in. Oh, I guess I should let everyone know what we're doing today. Today is going to be a chill stream. We were going to do the trial of Whick today, where a bunch of people were mad at me about something I said, and we're going to have them hash it out. But we had to move that till tomorrow. So today, literally just a call-in stream, a chill stream, kind of a hangout stream. So if you want to call in, you can today. But I wanna first see how Sulfur's doing. Sulfur, hello.
Oh, hello.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm here. I'm doing nails. So if I am not looking up, that's probably what I'm doing. Maybe chat can help me pick a color later for my
fun.
nails.
What are the options color-wise?
Oh my god, I have so many.
I'm getting a pink vibe, I gotta say.
I love pink. It's a little confusing, but I've got like all sorts of colors. Maybe I can.
Okay, so this might be a little out of pocket, but I'm a purple fan, so I think maybe a light purple or a violet might be the way to go. But I don't know anything about colors, so don't take my word for it.
It's not even gonna pick up. Everything is so washed out.
I'm looking at it. I can't quite tell. Yeah, no, I think that looks nice. That's a pretty one.
It's got like a purplish. I think purple is the only color I really don't have, like a royal purple. I've got like every color of pink and blue.
Oh wait, so you're doing dip nails? That's what you're doing. You're not just doing the gel.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, still gel, but yeah. So we'll see.
Some fancy stuff. Good for you.
Thank you.
I wish I had those nail skills.
Oh, honestly, my nail girl went crazy, so I had to teach myself. So here we are.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Never good when the nail girl goes crazy, right?
Yeah.
So I promised. Promised Fairy Queen. Go. Just a background gang. So just before I went live, I saw a tweet, and as Twitter often does, or X, I guess as it's called now, it made me a little heated. I have questions. Hopefully, I can get this person on to talk about it. They're no stranger to the channel. They've been on my show before. Sirius, I believe, is their name of choice, their moniker of choice. But they made a tweet, and Fairy Queen was asking what this tweet is about. So I'm gonna link it to her so she can see, and you'll see her live reaction to the take, and then I'll tell you, gang, about what it is. So here's what I'm responding to. Give me a second.
To be fair, I do believe they were responding to someone else's tweet, but their tweet is not really less. Well, you'll see.
Okay. I DM'd it to you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Who is this person?
Who's this person? Yeah, it's I guess it's a person. They go on Sunday Stream a lot, President Sunday Stream a lot, and I don't know them outside of that. I've had them on once about on the violence panel, right? I believe Sulfur was on that one.
I was supposed to be, but
Oh,
Sunday
yeah, you were
ran
supposed to
5
be.
times, and then Loner Box.
Yeah,
was
yeah,
the
yeah,
goat
yeah,
and
yeah.
helped me out.
But so for my audience, what this tweet is. So Delusional Takes posted a screenshot of some rando giving the following take. Someone needs to create porn for children. Hear me out. Young teens are already watching porn, but they're finding hardcore, aggressive videos that give terrible view of sex. They need entry-level porn, a softcore site where everyone asks for consent, no one gets choked, etc. And Sirius here has decided to steelman this position, as far as I can tell, and is asking if anyone has a compelling argument against this. So I would like, if they're watching, right, and I invited them on Twitter, so we'll see how that works out. This might not happen, but if they're watching, just jump backstage, and I will give you a compelling argument against kiddie porn.
Well, it's wait. Technically, it's not. It's not technically. Well, I don't. You know what? I'm
It
gonna.
is technically.
You know what? I'm gonna put my. I'm gonna. You know what? Fair. That's a fair.
It is technically.
I'm not. I'm trying like really hard to just. This has to be a mistake kind of moment. But you know what? No, I don't need to say any of that. Because yeah, I think it's a bad take regardless. It's a fucking it's yeah, I don't want to use the word predatory.
Well, I'm just curious, like if we were gonna if he were here, and I don't know if it's a he, it could be a she. I'm not sure, honestly. If they were here, what would your argument be against exposing children to porn, Fairy Queen? Can you give me your argument about why showing children porn is bad? What are your thoughts? I'm curious if you had to argue against it.
Because it's sexually abusive. That's one, and we don't generally uphold sexually abusing children in our society. Yeah. I think that's pretty basic.
Yeah.
But sometimes, and this is a thing that's interesting about the question, is when you ask people to defend very basic, intuitive level positions, they fumble the bag, right? This is why I encourage debates on racism and things like that, because I think it's very important when someone asks you, why is it bad to be racist, that we have a coherent argument against racism, right? Like, we have a coherent argument against this so that we can explain in a compelling way why it's bad to be racist. So, much in the same vein, I kind of want to ask both of you, like, for a compelling argument against showing children porn, because I think it's important if someone comes up and starts seriously advocating for something like this, that we be able to say, hey, this is bad for this reason. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I think the underlying issue is that it does harm. And I think that my argument would have been similar to the kind of the porn panel that we already did, that no one heard because we derailed so hard on the panel anyways. But it's that there are providing it's not like providing an adult the space to like explore and have these things. It's interrupting a child's like psychosexual development in a period of time when they're really malleable, and therefore I think what you will find is that you will see, although we can't experiment on children in this way, we have ethics boards, thank God, is that you would see similar issues with like creation of synapses and just there would be harm caused. Also for the fact that like we know just generally this, like, if you were to show a child a pornographic film, I don't know if there's similar like laws as like if you think of selling someone cigarettes underage, but we know that certain things are harmful for kids, and so therefore we don't like encourage them. That would be my thoughts, my sentiments, but I don't know.
Yeah, I really hope they come.
It's bad.
I really hope. Please. It's like one of those takes where I'm begging them. Like there's no downside to me having this discussion because this is just going to be easy dunks all day. I don't understand why. Yeah, I just don't understand. I shouldn't say
Yeah.
this. This is a bad incentive. I should. Oh man, I'm really not sure about this. You should really come on and school me, serious, about why I'm wrong here. I'm fairly ignorant on this take, so you could probably get some easy dunks in against me if you come on. Is what I should say, but I would be lying. Definitely, it's something I really, really want to happen. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't know. I don't get it. Why? Like, do we have no sense of even just a self-preservation sense? Like, do we have no sense of self-preservation when it comes to this? Like, people are already worried about the left and groomers and those accusations, right? That is already a thing that is out there. Yep. Why give any fuel to that fire? Any at all? Why give them this? Like, Matt Walsh is sitting there.
Yeah. Just waiting for
just
it.
with the man behind the tree meme, just like, yeah, more of these takes. Libs TikTok's ready to clip it and ship it, right? They're waiting in the wings, like, yeah, we're gonna do this. So, even from a self-preservation standpoint, why would you ever go with this? Like, why would you? Why?
And I think it was really poignant for Sunday to kind of make that recommendation to them for them to take down that post, because. All of those reasons, and also it's just like a landmine. Like, why? But Twitter is such a weird space. I think I'm just gonna be dedicated to joining the sharks and attacking the undersea internet cables so that no one can have the internet, and we can all just.
Sorry, Fairy Queen. I think Fairy Queen's regretting me inviting her because I built this as like, this is just gonna be a chill chat. We're getting the lighthearted stream, and I had every intention, I promise you, for kind of like this chill kind of space where people come on and yell at us. But I saw this, and I'm like, I can't not talk about it. I can't not say anything. I can't not respond to this. I don't know. I apologies, Fairy Queen. My bad.
No, it's fine. Sunday's take is the right one. And you know, we can just repeat everything that he already said, which is obviously that it will not stop children from accessing more hardcore material anyway. So like the solution wouldn't even be effective. But just putting aside everything that he has already said, just on the face of it, because we need to produce pornography targeted towards children, that's on the face of that is abusive, right?
It's predatory. It's
right. I mean, you could use that
How
line
would you
of
market
thinking
it, right? Like just
no, I wouldn't. Yeah,
you could use that line of thinking to justify straight up. You could justify child rape, to justify assault of children, right? Because you're just showing them, you're just demonstrating how sex is supposed to be, right? You could use that line of thinking to justify a lot of abuse of children, right? I would say that it is not the purview of adults to protect children from explicit material, right? It's not the purview of adults to try to tell children or to be involved in their sexuality, right? It's only our job to tell them the truth and to give them the resources that they need in order to keep themselves safe.
Okay.
Yep.
They said they can't come on. They're on vacation, and that's sad to me, but I understand.
Well, I was on vacation and I hopped on a stream, so that is a poor excuse. Okay, what a lame excuse is that?
Let him be.
All right, go hide on the
for
beach
now.
Then,
they haven't taken it down. Like, attack him on Twitter. Not attack them, but attack their point on Twitter. right? Attack their point on Twitter, because that point does deserve to be attacked. But it is a call and stream, gang, and we got callers. So if you want to call in, !Discord and chat, click the link, accept the rules, jump backstage, and when we're ready, we'll pull you in. Let's get this first caller in here and see what they have to say. Hello.
Chesty, how are you?
Hey, what's up? I don't have a camera. I know you're gonna ask me again, Whick. I mean,
Okay.
camera, but I'm not gonna plug it in. So yeah, fuck. How do I follow that? Jesus. Hearted.
Yes.
Gonna come in here, crack some jokes. So, all right. I'm actually okay. I can comment on this really quickly because it feels like it's run its course, but. I have heard something proposed. I think what this person, when they tweeted, their logic is like, the cat's out of the bag, you can't control it, therefore maybe this other fucked up thing, which I think we can all agree is stupid. I have heard something proposed, and they've done this for things like contact tracing and some other things where people need to stay anonymous. Something of the nature where when you're of age, you can apply and you basically get an anonymous token, and this can't be like traced back to your personal identity, but you use that token in order to like access pornographic websites. So it's almost the inverse of what this person is saying. I'm saying like, let's lock it down.
Let's lock it down.
Yeah, make it super as restrictive as possible, and you basically have to like through the government or whatever agency, because it's linked to your ID. However, like they don't have your like browsing data, like they don't know what kind of weird fucked up porn you're looking at. It's just to get access to these websites.
Yeah,
I think that's my response initially to this take was we need better age gates, because it'll never not be funny to me that states recently have found a way to ban porn by not banning it. It's illegal to ban porn, right? First Amendment and things, but they found a way to do it. And how do they do it? How do they get it realistically banned? They just require age gates. And then suddenly porn companies pull out of the state because they don't want to make these age gates to protect children. And that's wild to me. Like,
the age gates are super easy to get around though, because here's an age gate, right? You go onto the website, you say, this is my age, voila. I was born in 1956.
They're requiring, like, to be clear, Utah, for example, passed a recent law that makes it I wish I had the details with me off the top of my head. I didn't even do any research into this because I didn't think this was going to be a topic. But it made it harder than that. Like, you had to provide some sort of government ID or something, I believe.
Yeah. So Pornhub, which is I do not agree with Pornhub's terms of service. I don't agree with how they've ever operated as a business just generally. But the response to that, obviously, of them pulling out of Utah, and I think it was Missouri, as well. But so some of the porn activist people that I know have been saying, well, why don't we just why not enforce parental controls, like either with a provider. So because your kid's going to go on the internet on the phone, right? So why not do it that way, right? So have the provider either gate it as opposed to the government. But
because the provider's not. They're not doing it.
Yeah.
Well,
no. So the sites, vendors, and the cell phone providers aren't doing it. So I guess it's the government, right? Which seems like a really dire strait.
Yeah, realistically, for ISPs to do something like that, just intuitively, I'm guessing a lot of porn is probably consumed on a daily basis. I don't know how feasible that is, because they try to do that for like copyright for certain Game of Thrones or all those types of shows, and they can like barely stay on top of that. So I like where your head is at. I do think it's better to have more structure than less structure in this regard.
Well, who do we trust? It comes down to, who do we trust to have our data more?
Parents.
Do we trust the government, or do we trust corporations? And I get not wanting to give too much information to either. I understand, but we already give like Amazon like all of our deets to buy a toaster, right? Like this. Yeah. They already know everything. If you are online at this point, if you are on Twitch, if you're sitting there watching this stream on YouTube or Twitch, the government already has like the corporations already have all your data, right? Like
Wait,
this isn't
so is
like
the
new
government?
information you're going to be giving them.
I feel like I.
I'm
Oh, I see.
I'm
I see.
being told by my backstage correspondent that Virginia banned Pornhub. Funny enough, that was from Small Peanuts. Thanks.
Damn. So this is a PSA. Everybody, importance of using a VPN. Shit matters. Yeah, I didn't really have too much else. Wick wanted me to come on here and be sexist, but I told him no.
Be sexist. Say
Yeah,
something.
what's your most sexist take?
We appreciate it,
My
Testy.
most sexist take? Shit. Okay, well, I got two things lined up here.
All right.
So firstly, okay, this is a good one. This is like a double standard that I've noticed between men and women, and it's a little bit confusing for me. But so I personally, I don't have an issue when women breastfeed in public. Like that's not a big deal, right? I think that most people would say that a woman breastfeeding in public is natural. It's like nurturing. But when I do it, all of a sudden it's cruel and unusual. Like it just, I think it's sexist. People just fucking get so mad. They're like, "What are you doing?" And yeah, I don't
Do
know.
you
That,
produce
What are
milk? Is that what you're telling us, Testy?
no, I don't produce milk. Of course not. I'm a man.
Then how are you feeding anyone from your nipples?
I'm not feeding them. I'm just breastfeeding. It's for the comfort thing, right? It's just for the bonding, all right? All right. I don't know
What
if-
oh,
I
I
don't-
was gonna say there's a contraption like for like dads to like actual like cis dads to it's like wet nursing or something.
Oh, I
I'm
know what you're talking about.
using
Yeah. Like
yeah
the
yeah
fake,
yeah yeah.
fake boobs. Yeah. But no, I feel like that's kind of unnatural. So, but anyway, I'll work on that one. Thanks for letting me test that one out. The
Yeah.
other thing, which I think is maybe more sexist. Okay, so I totally understand giving up your seat on the bus to like people who are disabled, right? Like, I get it. Even I used to work fucking a warehouse job, wear steel toes, and I'd be working like 10-hour shifts, and I'd be fucking exhausted. But you're still expected to give up your seat. But for women that are pregnant, like they kind of chose to get pregnant, right? I feel like people who are disabled didn't really choose that. So I
Mm.
think it's unfair.
What's unfair exactly?
Well, it's like a
So
self-imposed
okay, let me
thing,
ask you
right?
this, Testy. So
Yes.
you've had a 10-hour shift, manual labor, backbreaking labor. You're pretty tired, pretty exhausted, right?
Yeah.
Get on the bus. You sit down. It's a nice, comfy seat. You're doing good. Okay, and bus fills up. Standing room only at this point. Pregnant woman walks in. No one else has given up her seat, and she looks at you imploringly, and you could tell she's having a time of it, right? Like she's
Oh, like ready to
pregnant.
pop?
She's got 2 babies already, right? That she's
Two babies
carrying, one
already,
in each
and she's
arm.
pregnant.
She's
Damn, dude.
like she's having
I
a
mean,
struggle. Okay,
yeah.
you're
Okay.
not gonna give up your seat. You're gonna let her stand.
Okay, well, first off, you're trying to make me look as bad as possible, and I've already decided to sink myself. But no, I would just do what everybody else does. Like I would just avoid eye contact, put my head down, got my headphones in, like I just pretend like I don't see her. Um, if somebody were to like tap me and be like, "Hey, this woman needs a seat," then I would just be like, "Well, you can give up your seat, right?" And they probably would. They would judge me for being a piece of shit. In that particular circumstance, I
Dairy
don't know.
Queen,
That's
are
how
you judging him right now?
I came here to be judged. All right, you
Okay.
can't put me down
I'm
anymore.
going to ask you a different question, okay?
Yeah, of
Suppose
course.
you're going on the bus and you do see a person that's disabled.
Yeah.
The person is disabled is a veteran, okay? And you can infer that the reason why they have a disability is because they were involved in war. Do you give up your seat to that person?
Okay. How do I know they're
Ooh.
a veteran? Are they like
They're wearing a military suit. They are in military garb. They're in camouflage. They're obviously disabled. You can probably infer that it is from their time of service. Do you give up their seat?
Yeah, in order to stay logically consistent, I'm gonna have to refuse. You know, like
Okay.
I'm out there, I'm contributing to the economy.
Well,
I'm
at least
working working my job. It's and like I would thank them for their service, like of course. But
Okay,
yeah,
so I'm going to ask you my next follow-up question.
oh god,
Do
this
you
is
think
it for
that
me.
the job that you are involved in, and you said you worked a 10-hour shift, let's say you work at a local factory, do you think that that is more valuable to your country than serving in the military?
Well, it's kind of apples and oranges, right? Like both are important. Like you got to have like the economy needs to keep moving, and also we have to stay protected. So I wouldn't say they're the same, but they're both important, right? Like both important functions to society. Yeah.
Disagree with you, but I would say that we do, as a society, try to celebrate our veterans, right? We celebrate them because of their service, right? And the reason I ask is because involved in his service, he has a disability that he would not have otherwise have if he didn't choose to serve his country, right? So it goes like you could argue that like when somebody is pregnant and they're giving birth to a new baby, that is a woman hopefully contributing a new citizen to society.
I have to jump in because Rabbit's yelling at me to read his bits, and he did pay some bits for me to read. And gang, remember, I am doing this for money. I want money. I want your money specifically. So if you want to super chat and if you want to give me bits, I will read your comments, even if they're stupid. So here is Rabbit's comment. Why would I give up my seat because some woman has a parasite growing in her? She could have gone in almost any alley and solved that problem before getting on the bus.
God damn. Well, I appreciate the appreciate
The backup?
support, Rabbit, but yeah, whew, yeah. I mean, there you go. Rabbit said it.
Fair enough. If that's what you want to look. Hey, you know what? It's still better than the "let's show porn to kids" take. I'll give you that. Still better than the "let's show." It wasn't the worst take we've heard today. So
I mean, if that's the part,
Testy,
yeah,
thank you. Thank you for coming on.
Right. Until next time.
Yeah, I will see you later.
Thanks, Tessie.
To the void, right? I wonder if I forced him to give up his seat. I don't know if Allison's pregnant, but Allison's our next guest, and
oh no,
so I don't want to put that juju on her. I think they're like we try to logic brain, and in all seriousness, I know we're joking around here, but in all seriousness, we try to logic brain things a little too much on occasion. The reason that we give up a seat for someone who is struggling is because it's the right thing to do. We should be, as a society, willing to make sacrifices, at least some small ones, so that others' lives can be easier. If you, who are able-bodied, have a seat and can give it up so that a pregnant woman doesn't have to stand on her feet for 20 minutes and drive home, I think you should.
Yeah.
And if you don't, I will judge you a little bit for it, right? Not entirely, right? But I will judge you a little bit. I think that's right and proper that I do so. Any final thoughts on that before? Okay, cool. Welcome, Allison. You're live. You're muted on your end.
Yes, I'm here.
You got a camera for us?
Yeah. Hi.
Based and camera pilled. Much better than Tessie Johnson already. You've been listening to this wonderful stream so far. What are some of your thoughts on these takes?
Yes. Okay, so first of all, I just want to say that I live in a state that got the Pornhub willingly revoked. Like Pornhub said,
yeah,
you can't show porn to minors. We won't show porn to anybody. And they like pulled out. Like that's a little bit of a bad faith way to interpret it, but I just think that's hilarious. They were like, "Listen, you're an adult industry. Act like an adult industry," and they were like,
like they never have. Honestly, I don't support them. I think they're a really bad company, just overall. But no, it's I agree with you. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, y'all basically covered why the porn for kids argument is bad. Like, it's just on its face.
It's been a weird. I'm sorry. It's been a weird day. Okay, I'm just saying it was a weird thing to read. Like in all seriousness, just anyway.
I
fucked
don't
up.
understand this idea that, like, I mean, I'm not male, right? So I've heard arguments that males are more like requiring a visual stimulation, but I don't understand why, like, you need porn. Like, you have your brain, like, you have the ability to, like,
Mm.
sexually fantasize while you masturbate. Like, you don't need video stimulation, but I don't know.
It's offloading a process, right, that would otherwise be taken up by our cognitive ability, right? Like, I can do math manually, or I could just get a calculator to do it for me, and take some steps away. So there is this kind of ease there. Now, when it comes to need it, I don't think we do. I think that we want it. And that's okay, right? If you were an adult. If that's what you choose and that's what you want to consume, I think it's okay. You should be allowed to do so. But that's the key. When you're an adult. Much like I don't want children drinking or doing vaping or doing cigarettes and things like that. Same thing with pornography. Kids can wait.
Yeah.
Hot take, perhaps. The first time I saw any kind of pornographic thing, right? I was 11 years old. I was 11.
Yeah.
It's
way too young.
It did me harm. It made me a worse person. Oh, I'm getting this weird echo.
Oh, yeah, I'm probably hot.
No, thank you. But yeah, I should not have been able to access pornography on the internet at 11 years old on AOL. I should not have had access to that. I should have been stopped. Right?
No,
like,
I've heard that the average age of exposure, at least in the US, is like 10, 11, 12. And that's so sad. Like, that's just a great argument for age gating, in my opinion.
Yes. Yeah. Oh no, 100%. No, just the whole industry right now is like it's weird to see the divide because there's people who are like, oh, like whatever, they're gonna see it anyways, which is like very much like you can drink in the house argument, like that, some parents would give, but it's one of those things that it's like I don't want kids on the internet under the age of 16 anyways. I don't think kids should have the internet.
Taste!
Like,
Taste! What are you spinning here? Wow! Okay, let's go. I'm listening.
But parents say, okay, then how do you control it? And it's like, at school, they're going to see it somewhat. Like, of course, somewhere along the way, but it's like, if we can put in every stop along the way to make it like more difficult to say, hey, Pornhub, you're an idiot company, we don't want you in our state or our province, whatever, if you don't want to like participate in age gating, which every other fucking adult service at this point is saying, like, we'll do whatever, but it makes more sense for the provider, the parents, for all of these other steps to go in before the government. It makes no sense to me. I just don't get it, but people want to make.
What do we think of that? Like, look, it's a war crime. It's a war crime that I am at risk of hearing a 14-year-old's opinion on anything, okay? That I could be just living my life, scrolling through Twitter, right? As one does, looking at thirst traps, and the risk of me seeing a 14-year-old's opinion on the Ukraine war or anything, really, that is a human rights violation, and that is doing me harm, and that needs to stop immediately. So, yeah, get on it. Sulfur for internet president here. I don't know. What's y'all's take? Fairy Queen, what's your thoughts?
On banning children from the internet under the age. Well, so here's the thing. If we're talking specifically about making moves to like restrict Pornhub and like pornography websites, like in states and like limiting access, then I would agree with you on that. But as far as restricting the internet, so I work as a teacher. I work as a teacher. So because of that, I know that in schools we really do. We are emphasize computer use, right? Digital technology in high schools and in junior high is something that we are required as a part of our standards to teach and to emphasize to our students, right? So part of the reason like why they use laptops, why the computers are in school, it's not just because to be fancy or anything. It's literally a part of the standards. It's a part of the curriculum that we're supposed to
have laptops now in high school.
Well,
look,
yeah.
I'm okay.
Yes, they do.
I'm okay with having okay, so I'm okay with them having access to certain
God.
portions of the internet, but they should not have
Yeah,
access
not social
to
media, not
to as much as it like their access should be limited, not just from pornographic sites, but should be limited from social
from
media,
gore sites, social
Instagram,
media.
Twitter, or X or whatever it's called now, social media in general. Like, let them have their kids only stuff. That's fine.
Yeah.
Age appropriate, but again, I don't think they should be having as much access as they do now, and I don't care if people are mad at me for this take, as it.
Well, I don't think anybody here is rooting for YouTube for kids or Instagram for kids or any kind of social
Yeah.
media that's marketed towards kids. I wonder practically, like,
I was
What's
gonna say,
that?
do y'all remember, like, because YouTube Kids is a thing and it does exist, but there have been numerous scandals where adults are uploading like the weirdest shit ever,
Yep.
and like some motherfuckers in an Elsa
Oh.
costume, and so they pretend it's
Yep.
for kids, but it's like very clearly adult content, like nasty.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's weird. You always see it kind of taken advantage of. There's a really bizarre animation. It's called Finger Family, but it like gets away with being on YouTube for kids, and it's like literally just obscene and fetish baiting, and like it's like this is like just available, but
Right.
yeah.
Like, I have restrictions as much as they let me on my content, both on YouTube and on
Yeah.
Twitch, and I don't think Kick has these. I don't know Kick well enough, right? But I lock it. So yeah, the age gate isn't strong, and I wish it was stronger, but it's there because even the conversations I have, which they're just they're just not appropriate for all ages, right?
Yeah.
I think that I don't, and this is what it comes down to. I don't trust parents to regulate the kids how they should. I just don't. They failed at it. Mine included, and I love my mom and dad, right? But they should have regulated me harder. But they don't, right?
Yeah.
And every generation of kids just becomes more technologically literate than their parents.
Yeah.
So it just gets harder and harder for parents to do the things necessary.
Yeah. 100%.
Well, what else you got for us, Allison? Would you
Okay, really-
if you were pregnant, would you make Testy give up his seat for you?
I wouldn't make him, but I would hope that he would. Like, I definitely would hope that he
Testy,
would.
if you're watching this, I want you to look in Allison's eyes right now. I want you to look in Allison's eyes. And I want you to, chat at her, I guess, since you aren't here. But tell her, no, I'm not giving up I'm not giving up my seat for you, right? You chose to be pregnant. You chose to have a parasite growing inside of you. Why should I even take care of you, right? Like, I want you to think about that. Keep it in your mind.
One more quick thing before I bounce out. I didn't get to see a lot of your male loneliness panel, but I saw a little bit. And one thing I really disagreed with some of the people on there, they were like very opposed to approaching a woman if you've been drinking, or like approaching people if you've been drinking.
Yeah.
I agree. Like, if you're like inebriated, like falling over, like probably don't go and try to shoot your shot because it's like probably not going to go well. But I think alcohol is a great social lubricant. And I think that, like, a lot of times that's why people go to bars. And I just, like, I think it was Brittany Simon said, like, if you have to approach me when you're drunk, like, that's a no-go. And I'm like, she might not have said it like that. I'm not trying to misrepresent her. But I'm like, it's not that they
It was
have
basically
to
that.
approach you when they're drunk. It's like, definitely easier.
Yeah.
Do you think, and this is to the class here, right? This is all of you.
Are we in a class now?
This is the class. Welcome, class.
This is digital literacy for
True.
the class.
Have we, because this was my take on the panel, and I wish we had kind of drilled into it more, but we didn't get to. We had other takes to deal with. But I think one of the major problems is we have demonized approaching women in public too much. I mean, we've just, like, and it is so taboo to talk to women in a romantic sense and approach them in a romantic or a sexual sense at any public venue. You can't do it outside of clubs and bars, right? And even there, people are kind of trying to make it taboo. But at work, at school, at the park, at the grocery store, at the bank, at any of these places where people just exist, it has become more and more demonized to approach them. I think that is a major contributing factor to why people feel lonely, is because it's never socially acceptable to approach a woman unless you're at these very specific locations. And even then, there's other rules at play. Like, can you approach them when they're with a group, right? Like, if there's a gaggle, like a flock of women around, right? Like, is it okay to approach when they're obviously doing their own thing and having their own conversation? I mean, what do you think, gang?
I think some people have largely, like, abused the not the system, but like I the word I'm going for is privilege in my head, but it's not that. I feel like my generation and probably your generation as well, Whick. I don't know how old either of you ladies are, but I'm a little bit older, so
how old
for
are
me,
you?
it's
If you don't mind.
I'm 30.
Oh, okay.
I'm 30.
I'm 26, so
okay, yeah,
26.
So, oh, good. Okay.
Twinsies.
But when I was younger, it would be like, so you're out with the girls at the club, you're having a good time, and there would be a guy like the meme you said earlier, Whick, just like behind the pillar, like, I'm gonna go, and then they
just waiting for one to
linger.
get separated from the herd so that I can go
and that, I think it's totally appropriate, and well, maybe not appropriate in all, like, maybe don't hit on your nurses while they're, taking your blood pressure at, like, the doctor's office. Like, maybe leave them alone, they're working. Like, if you wanted to say hi, like, hey, and, like, do a quick, like, 1, 2, see what the vibe is, and then fuck off, right? I think that's way more acceptable than what I guess, like, what I experienced with my female friends, and, like, being just a woman outside in public where men are like, hey, girl, where you going? I'm like, nowhere with you, dude. Get the fuck away from me. like following for a few blocks, right? Like, don't follow for a block. If there's like a hey, and you make eye contact, you stop, that's perfectly fine. But I don't know who's teaching young men these things anymore, because we need more male role models for young men. Men need community. I was really upset watching the panel just because of everything Brittany was saying the other night. But yeah, those are my thoughts, at least.
I have a question for everyone, because I've heard people say this a lot, that men need more male role models, that men need to be taught how to do these things. If we dial back the clock to 1950 or to 1930, I mean, were men being taught to go out into public and to ask women out on dates? Like, was there a social etiquette that existed to actually teach? Like, what was the body? Like, I know we're saying society, I know we're saying we. Who specifically is the person or the institution that is supposed to do this?
You would learn it from, so depending on the institution, right, where you were doing it at, is you would learn from your peers and from the males in the space that ran the space. And let's not kid ourselves, almost all of the institutions were male run back then. So that they would kind of disseminate this through kind of like this, and this is a meme way to pit it, but it's absolutely true, through this kind of like an osmosis of, you saw examples of it happening and you would mimic those examples, and that's how you would learn. And you would be socially stigmatized if you did it wrong or weird, right? You would be bullied and made fun of. And if you did it right, you would be rewarded with success. I think that these institutions, again, we've demonized this interaction at all in these institutions. Or some of these institutions are now no longer hold the power that they once did. Churches are a big one, right? They would have church dances. It would be encouraged. Like, the whole point of these places were for people to mix and mingle and to meet and to get married and to have kids and to have relationships. And we have almost entirely done away with that. And it's become a commodity, a commercialized thing. So instead of a community doing it through a church, usually would the venue be, it's now Tinder or Bumble or some other kind of group like that. And so I think that like in the 50s and 60s, it was community efforts that would teach like these community rules, and they would differ community, but that's how it was kind of passed down. There wasn't any individual male role model that we could point to, right? But it was through watching your peers do it and either succeed or fail and then mimicking them. It was mimicry. Does that answer your question?
And the answer to that sounds to be like just basically encouraging people to go outside and touch grass then, isn't it? Like, isn't it basically like go to places, like go meet and go be involved in a community of men who are frequently outside and who are having success with women?
And who are engaging in trying to get women. That's the thing. Like, it can't be just men who already have relationships, because then you don't get to see it happen. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that was the important thing, is you would see other people engage in this behavior, and then you could mimic it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
This is like very like tangentially bounced off. I think dating apps are terrible. Like, I'm not completely anti dating apps or whatever. I actually know a couple that's about to get married and they met on Tinder, which is like so funny to me. But so I'm not saying it works for nobody, but God, I hate them.
Yeah. It's like the swiping action as well. There's like some research that shows that like this kind of like, oh, dismissive, like yes, no, it like shortens the like actual lifespan of interactions, just kind of generally, because it's like, oh, well, like I'm not interested, so swipe. You're not ever kind of being.
You would hit it off like in real life, who you probably would have like swiped left on if you just saw them on an app. Like, and that's so sad.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm going to stick for dating apps, and I'm going to tell you why, because I don't disagree with what you're saying. I think it's true. For me, I'll just tell my personal story. So I did not date anyone in high school. I did not have a date to prom. I didn't have a date to homecoming. And I felt very self-conscious about my appearance. And so when I went to college, when I was like about 18 or 19, I had zero experience dating anyone, right? So I felt very self-conscious. Like, I don't think that at that time I would have had the confidence to go out in public and even like, because there's the stigma that the man is supposed to ask you, it meant that nobody asked me, which meant that I did not have dates, which meant that I did not have any chance at relationships. So for me, having a dating profile and being able to interact with people through a digital medium was useful for me. Now, I don't know if that's going to be useful for men, because obviously the dating app experience is very different for a man as opposed to for a woman. But I will say, at least for me personally, it was a godsend. And I don't think that I would have been able to date when I went off to college if I didn't have dating apps, to be perfectly frank. I don't think that I would have had the confidence or the ability to date without it.
I don't know. I think they're predatory. I think that it'll be a meme, like the capitalist influence, right? Makes them just on their foundational level too predatory to actually be helpful in a real sense. I think that any help or good it does is an accident, if you will, right? Like, now, that isn't to say that it can't be done right. I remain optimistic that there will be some sort of innovation in this space that is actually helpful for men. I just don't see it. Again, I don't use them, but I know people who do, and men who do, and almost across the board, not entirely across the board, but almost across the board, it's a negative experience. It's just really bad. Anyway,
I think it's so sex differentiated. Like, women will even go on dating apps when they're not interested in a relationship just to get validation, because you will get so much attention. Whereas men, like, they will get their confidence just killed.
Right.
Like, you'll see attractive guys who are cool, and they will just like, nothing will happen for them, and it's just like a big bummer.
Okay, well, Allison, thank you for coming on. But we're gonna have to ask you to give up your seat for the next man in line. You know, the real oppressed class. Okay, so Allison, we love you, but
bye, Allison.
Good to see you.
To the void.
To the void.
I don't think she's pregnant. It's okay to make. Could be wrong.
Bringing it back.
Could be wrong. Okay. Next caller. And this has been great, gang. Gang. And if you want to call in, you can. This is an open call-in show. Just hit ! Discord and chat. Click the link, accept the rules, jump backstage, and we'll give you some time, and we can talk about whatever you want. It doesn't have to be anything we've talked about so far. If you think this is boring and you want to come in with a hot take, you may. But let's bring in the next contestant. Hello.
Hello.
You're live. You got a camera for us?
Oh. 𝕾𝖎𝖎𝖙 has left.
Oh.
That was quick.
Vance back to Washington.
Whoa. What you
Okay.
got?
Sorry. Discord. There we go.
No.
There we go.
Well, welcome.
Hey. Welcome.
What
See
you
if I
got
my
for
camera
us
working.
today?
I got a lot. I got all that you need. But so the topic was, can you have porn for kids? And I found an interesting exception around this because I was like, okay, what's the actual law? And I don't know. And I don't even like want to search it up. But there's like one statute which is like depictions of a minor, and the one exception, really fucked up now, is if you are married and whatever you're doing is legal and you're not distributing it, I guess in my state it's legal. And
Are you
that's
talking about
weird.
child marriages? So, like, if you were in a weird cult and you're 14,
See,
you
like,
get
someone help me
married-
out. Is it even legal to be married to someone under 18 in Washington? I don't know.
In Washington, no, but in Kentucky, yes.
Okay. Well, I don't know what Kentucky's other laws are. That's
You can have
a whole
child
other thing.
brides as low as
Yeah.
13. 12 or 13, actually. It's really terrible.
Kids,
Yeah.
gross.
Child
Yeah,
marriage
so I
is
guess-
bad. Yeah.
It is bad. It is bad. Okay. So why is that exception even written? This is like, it totally threw me for a loop. So forget about that.
So, are you here to
Um,
stand porn for kids?
No, I'm like exactly the opposite. Like, I
Good.
cannot conceive of a way in which this is legal, in which I could ever do this, and in which case I would not be like thrown in jail for
the
this.
advocacy is that it should be legalized in order to do less harm than is being done now. So the argument that, again, was made in the tweet and that I hear made around this is that cat's out of the bag. Kids are exposed to porn at young ages, 10, 11, 12 is usually when they had their first experience with pornography. And in order to minimize the harm that it's doing, right, we should have safer, better porn so that they don't see just choking, violent, like face fucking and shit, right? And thank
Right.
you for the gift sub, 𝕼𝖎𝖎𝖙. Really appreciate you. So, so in order to do, it's a harm reduction thing would be the argument. I think it's a bullshit argument, but that would be the argument, right?
Oh, and my camera's not working. Darn it. Oh well. The other exception that's interesting that I found is that there is an exception for members of the legislature, employees of the legislature, and employees of higher learning. So I guess someone's ready to study it. And if you are really going ham on this argument, move to Seattle and I will not want to have anything to do with you.
Okay.
It's either, I wonder if they're looking into like making new educational videos for like, I don't fairy dust might be a little bit
For
more
sex ed? I
like
don't
for
even
sex
know.
ed, yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
even know if that's legal. Like, I was like, okay, as a father,
Not using children.
I can't
fuck
do
no,
that.
but yeah.
no, not
no.
using children, but even showing this material. Well,
Yeah.
I can't. I'm not a legal expert, so I was like, I don't even want to touch this because
We have
it's
to
not
alert
like.
Pisco. Pisco will
Mhm.
come tell us.
Oh, he's not a lawyer in my state. He will repeatedly tell you that. So
Oh, fair.
the other thing I have to say, a quick take on male loneliness. Men, if you're lonely, try dating men. You will get a girlfriend that way.
A girlfriend is
dating
in a
men?
quote unquote girlfriend or an actual girlfriend?
And
Are you
an
saying-
actual girlfriend.
By dating men.
Are you saying
Yes.
that women love gay men? Because you're not wrong, but
Oh, there's many layers possible.
You're gonna have to elaborate on this, please.
Okay, so I went and I was dating a man, and eventually that man became a woman. So now I have a girlfriend.
He's solved it.
I'm gonna let that hang. What do you think, Fairy Queen?
There you go. I have
Congratulations
solved
on your
loneliness.
new girlfriend.
There you go.
Hey.
R.I.P. my boyfriend. Thank you. We'll be very happy together.
Seattle, it was a pleasure. Flipper now.
All right.
To the void.
To the void. I thought this was gonna be some elaborate like ruse, because like there's and forgive me, I'm a lesbian, so I'm using a word maybe that I'll say frog instead. How about that? But there's like frog hagging, right? So like women love gay men, will go because they feel safe with you in the club, and so on and so on. So it's often a technique used to like bring the women to proximity. It's used usually to wingman your straight friend, but yeah.
Well,
Yeah. That was not where I was expecting it to go.
it wasn't. I mean, that's also a thing, right? I guess that I have thoughts on. It's okay. Again, maybe a hot take. I understand, right? That manipulation is a loaded phrase. We usually use it in a context that is negative. But we manipulate each other all the time in ways that I think aren't necessarily bad. Simply being nice to someone is a form of manipulation, even if you genuinely mean it. You're still signaling them to be nice because you want them to be happy, you want them to feel comfortable around you, you want them to do all these things. It's the motives that make manipulation bad. Manipulation is only bad when it has ulterior motives. That said, I think trying to kind of like trick women into being around you so that you can date them is a little weird to me. I understand the angle, and I understand that to a certain extent, it's like the argument is makeup tricking a man, right? Kinda, but it's acceptable, right? Like it's fine. Just like if you go out on a date, right? I wouldn't wear this. I would dress up nice for the first date, though I normally wear this. Is that dishonest? Is that manipulation? A little, but at the same time, it's fine, right? It's socially acceptable. Well, you seem to have thoughts, Fairy. Go ahead.
I think that when it comes to flirting or when we're dating someone, or like it depends on like what the interaction is. The reason I think why that's okay is because even though we both don't know, we know what the rules of the engagement are, right? Like when somebody comes over and like has witty banter or repartee, we know it's supposed to be a joke, right? And I know that you are trying to get me to laugh, right? But I accept that because I understand that that's the premise, right? There is no, like, it's not a lie, right? Like when I'm trying to tell you a joke or when I'm trying to flirt with you or when I'm trying to, because you understand what's going on. It's as you mentioned, when there's an ulterior motive, which implies a level of dishonesty, right? Like I'm telling you this, right? But really I mean something entirely different. And when we're flirting, it's like there's a transparent, like there's a sheet of sheer, right? Where you do know that this is really what I mean, even though I don't know if that makes sense or not, right? But like
even with flirting, right? Like a lot of women, right, won't be friendly flirt with men at all because they've had bad experiences where men will pretend that they're being friendly, and then it will turn out that no, they actually are very, very serious. Now there's a lot of reasons for that, and there's a lot of ways that can happen. Like sometimes when you're flirting, you catch feels, even if you don't want to, right? Like that's kind of what flirting does in a lot of ways. But at the same time, there are people who will just pretend to, just friendly. But no, it's not just friendly. They're angling for it, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's interesting. I think that it's like this game, and I think that that's valid. I think it's okay, but there are some unwritten rules that if you violate them, it turns weird.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's bring on the next guest on this wonderful. Hey, what's up? You alive?
Hello, Whick. This is me, 𝕵𝖎𝖎 or Diogenes.
Hi. You got a camera for us?
Yeah, let me see. Let me turn it on. I agree. Yeah, I think I'm turning it on right now. Let me see. My camera's. I think you're right. Like there is this game that gets played, when we're in relationships, and I turned it on. I think it's going right now, and I think it ends up being like this game of manipulation and control. Like ultimately, I feel like from my own personal experience, it's a lot of mind games. Like I could give some examples where I was like in preschool and a girl would be like, "Oh, you want to be my girlfriend? You want to be my boyfriend?" I'm like, "Yeah." And then we would not even kiss or anything. We would just be like preschool boyfriend and girlfriend because she's like, "Oh, you're my boyfriend." And she'd be like, "I like this other guy. What do you think about that?" Like, I really don't care. Like, if you like him, that's cool. Like, She's like, "But you're my boyfriend." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I'm your boyfriend, but I mean, I'm not trying to like, we're little kids." I was literally in the mentality like we're little kids. I don't even know what is.
When did that change for you, out of curiosity? And when did you start actually caring? Or I don't know, maybe you don't care. Maybe you're one of those open
I would
people?
say when I was in around the 4th to 5th grade, when you like around 12, 11 or 12, you start getting hormones. You want to start like being interested in the opposite sex. I feel like I try to give my story on what happened with me with that. Like around the 4th grade, I tried to kiss a girl, and she was hyperly sexualized. She was being hyperly overly sexual, and she was like, "Yeah, I did this, I did that," and I was like, "Whoa, like this is crazy," because I'm like, I feel uncomfortable just kissing. Like we were in the back of the cafeteria that she wanted to kiss me, and there was everybody around me watching, and I was just like, "This is really weird. Like I want to do this somewhere else." She started sharing like her sexual experiences. I was like, "I don't even want to kiss you now. Like I feel uncomfortable even kissing you," and it's.
Is that
I feel like it's been
slut
like
shaming?
that.
Did you slut shame her? Would you say
No.
that's slut
No, I
shaming?
just felt uncomfortable. Like as a child, as a little child, hearing another child talk about going through all these sexual experiences made me feel uncomfortable, and and I was just like, it was that kind of experience throughout my life. Like I feel like it was real easy for me to get females to want to talk to me, but it was always in like a sexual manner. Like they never really wanted to talk to me like who I am. They more cared about how I looked, and that's what it always comes down to. Ultimately, like the first thing is attraction, how you look. And
Oh, I need to interject here to give the context for some of this, okay? So just full disclosure, me, Dio, and a lot of other people were in VC earlier, and Dio over here said, and this is a direct quote, that women often ruin rational conversation by overwhelming it with a lot of social bullshit. And then, in response to that, he began giving a lot of
you misquoted me. You misquoted me.
With women and these experiences to prove that they overwhelm rational discourse.
So just for this isn't just a rando. This is a continuation of an argument that was happening in my Discord that I was unaware of.
That is what's happening here.
Okay.
Correct. The context of what's going on.
Okay.
Thank you for the context.
Yeah, because I thought he was just sharing some stories.
That's why he popped on to this panel. It's to get it on with me because he and I.
No. I didn't even know you were on here. Like, loneliness in men is a thing I've been wanting to talk about. Like, I'm 32 years old, and yeah, I have had sex in my whole life 2 times. So like that was intentional. I could have had sex a whole bunch, but I want to have like a personal, intimate, deep relationship, not just a whole bunch of fucking chicks that see me and want to have sex with me. Like I would rather be alone and wait until I find somebody that actually cares about me and not my body or not what I have to give them, but just for who I am, and that's it. And literally, if I don't give girls sex, most of the time they just leave. They just leave. They don't want to talk to me.
If I may interrogate this for a minute, because I'm very curious, what would you consider to be the core of you that you want women to want. So if it's not what you bring to the table, if it's not your looks and presentation, what is it that you want them to like about you, right? The women who were successful in getting you in bed, what did they like about you that made you be willing to give yourself to them?
The only reason I even like slept with a girl the first time was because I was already 18 and I was like, okay, I need to like have sex with a girl because I don't want to be like an old like virgin and then just like not know what it feels like to have sex with a girl. So I just had sex with somebody randomly like at a Halloween party. So that wasn't like anything. I felt like I wasn't like, oh, this girl's so special. I want to like be with this person. It was literally just to have the experience. And I was like, okay, that was not what I was expecting. And yeah, I do want an actual relationship. Like just having sex isn't really what it's cut out to be. And I feel like a lot of females do go down the line of the sex train of like, yeah, this feels good. I like this. And hey, I could get rich off of this. And
Okay.
Yep.
So you think women are just wanting to be overly sexual, and you think that's harming us, men, to be
yeah,
specific.
and they self-project, like they're over here being like, oh, you're like, I objectify us, this and that, blah blah blah, and it's just like, no, we don't. Literally, what if y'all objectify yourselves first of all, and yeah, it's only fine for us to objectify you when you're like, okay, it's fine, now you can do
Really?
it. And it's like, okay, like yeah, like literally,
Mhm.
my mom lives. We live on the same property. Like I don't live with my mom. She lives with me. Just for the record, okay, guys. So I'm just saying we share the land. Like we both paid money for the land, so it's equally ours.
Yeah. Multi-generational living. That's cool. You're good.
I have lived with my mom, and I have seen her interact with other males and be like, man, this guy just keeps on looking at me. Like, it's really weird. Like, yeah, they said it yesterday. Like, you get mad if they're looking at you. You get mad if they come up to you. Like, you get mad when we don't come up to you. It's a real weird thing because you literally have all the control, and it goes back to the game. Like, you think we are being in power and in control when we go ask you to be in the relationship. It's like, no, I'm not going to submit to you and ask you to be with me. If you want to be with me, you come up to me and you ask me. That is me being dominant. I feel like I'm being submissive by me being like, oh, can you be with me, please? Because I really like you.
Well, what do you
when we
think
both
about
know
that,
we like
ladies?
each other.
Yeah, I'm curious. I want to interrogate Sulfur and Fairy Queen here. Do you see a man as submissive when they're approaching you? Like, is that kind of a do
I
they
always
give off
think men
beta
are lost.
subby vibes? Or?
When men approach me, I'm always of the opinion that they're lost. So I don't swing that way. But that's so I might be the wrong person to ask. But yeah, so I will I'll concede my time.
Perhaps
to the queen, to the fairy
like
queen.
a man enjoyer, Fairy Queen. What's your thoughts here?
Okay, as a qualified man enjoyer, imagine, let me give you a non-gendered example to show you why I don't think that holds. Imagine that you are a property owner, okay? You own a house, you own a small little piece of land, you don't own a whole lot, you don't have a whole lot of money. He bounced because he knew I was about to say the next quote that he said in VC.
World spill. What did he say?
Well, here. So this is the analogy to sort of explain it in a non-gendered way. Okay. Imagine you have a piece of property. You've owned the property for a very long time. When you bought it, it wasn't worth a lot of money, but you fixed up the house. It's a nice little property. And then rolling down the hill, there is a millionaire who comes and knocks on your door and says that he wants to build an enormous building. And all you have to do is just give up your little house and he'll pay you handsomely for it if you just sell the house to him, right? I mean, sure, you're kind of in a position of power because you have the house, right? But because this person standing outside of your door has so much more money than you, has more social standing than you, because he has so much more resources than you, it's very easy for him to bully you into giving up your house, okay? Yeah. That is the dynamic that is often at play when women are interacting with men, okay? Except for instead of it being money, and well, though it's sometimes and often is money, they're not always, instead, you're being approached by this person who might feel genuinely scared to being rejected, but this person, to be clear, is usually like 5 to 6 inches taller than you, right? And is 50 to 100 pounds like heavier than you. And even if he's the exact same weight, is still going to probably be more muscular than you, can almost definitely deck you in a fight, right? I mean, so yes, you can kind of say no, but the reason why you are deliberately coy or deliberately try to slide away from it is that if you make this person mad, you're done, right? It's the same reason why you don't go into the woods and start poking a bear in the side. It's because there can be dire consequences, right? So
Yeah.
I do not think that it is fair to say that because you are making the ask, you are therefore the person with an enormously less amount of power. I think that there are some factors that are often at play that make it a dangerous situation for both parties involved.
So I don't like this argument, and I'll tell you why. It presupposes that women are inherently in danger from men. I don't think that's true. I think that's the outlier. I think that it happens, absolutely. But I think that a vast majority of men are not going to be physically violent if they reject you. Or if you reject them, sorry. If you reject a man, a vast majority of them are not going to be physically violent with you. They're not bears, right? We have social laws and strictures in place. You have, I would say, a robust, at least for physical violence, like bruises and stuff, I think you have a robust system to deal with that if a man does choose that route. It's not perfect. It needs better. It needs to be better than it is, but it's not nothing. So I don't like this analogy, and I don't like this framing because, again, it just presupposes that there is always this dangerous element. I don't think that's true. Why am I wrong?
I do think that you're wrong. And I'm going to tell you why I think that you're wrong. Because while I would agree with you, I don't think that most men wake up in the morning wanting to fuck over half the human race, okay? At least not that way anyway. And I don't think that most men are actually secretly monsters. But when you are a woman, and when you are a woman who dates men, you don't know, right? I don't know who you are. I mean, statistically speaking, if I'm sure I can gamble the odds that you're not going to stalk me, you're not going to call my boss, and you're not going to become, even if you're not physically violent, throw things or yell at me or hover and stand closely over me and talk very loudly to try to get, it's very possible that that's not going to happen, but I don't know that on day one, right? I don't know any of that information about you. And so until I have some sort of confirmation, until I meet your friends, until I see you in a social situation, until I see what you're like, because that danger could be there, I have to act as though it is there until it's proven otherwise.
Fair enough, but this isn't a gendered issue. I have had women, by rejecting them, not be physically violent, but these stalking you,
menacing,
calling your work, going to your work, harassing you, spreading lies and rumors about you. These are all experiences that I have had, right? The most common one, you don't want to have sex with me? You must be an F-slur, right? You must be an F-slur. You F-slur, right?
Mm-hmm.
Eunuch, right? And I've been viciously attacked and harassed because I did not have interest in the woman who expressed interest in me. And it's a problem, right? It's a problem. And I've been at workplaces where, again, I've rejected the woman at the workplace, and it has become a real big issue. And they made it an issue. So this danger that you're speaking of, again, I don't think the dynamic is one-sided at all. And I think that kind of puts the that's the plank, I think, that makes the argument, I think, null and void, because both sides are experiencing. Right. And I'll give you another example from the approachers. Right. As a man, right, going up to a woman and asking, like, even approaching him. Again, we talked earlier about stigmatization of doing this in a public space, like the risk of them rejecting you and then painting you as someone who is dangerous, who is harassing them, who is attacking them, who is being a monster, that risk is non-zero. And I would postulate that the risk of that is much greater than the risk of physical violence from a man if you tell them no.
So something behavior. Oh, you can go first. I'm sorry, Sulfur.
No. I think that the fear on both sides is whether or not I think kind of weighing these two things against one another as if I think it's counterproductive to the narrative, although I would say that men killing women is like the number one reason like women die. It's
sure, but that's all in relationships.
Yeah.
Let's be clear.
Yes,
actually, more men die,
yeah.
right, in public, like on the street, walking down the street, and late at night.
Yeah.
You are more likely to be killed as a man than as a woman. But when it goes into the home, right? Like that's why the British law that I don't know if you saw that, but there was a British law after there was a horrific assault on a woman, and so a law was proposed that men not be able to go out on the street after a certain time. It was a weird law, right? Like, but they a curfew only for men.
The nanny state of all nannies.
Yeah.
Really.
And the thing is, the data bears out that would actually make it more dangerous for women. It would make it more dangerous because if you're a woman, the danger of being assaulted physically or sexually
is in the home.
It's in the home. It's in the people you're already dating. It's in the established relationship.
And for sure. So I think instead of like weighing them, acknowledging both sides and like trying to like come to actual resolution on what we can do to like maybe there have been times in public where I've rejected someone. Obviously, I always go with the I'm so sorry. I don't swing that way. Like it's I make it as gentle as possible. But there have been times when like that wasn't enough, and then when yelling wasn't enough, that I have had to hit someone, and I don't blame men for that exclusively. I've had to do that with a couple of women. So I've seen it from both. But it's I see this as an issue for all of us as opposed to maybe a gendered issue. So I think that maybe.
Man, I wish that guy had dipped. I'm sorry he was a.
Well, I think he ran because he carried part of this.
Yes, because he's in DC currently. I'm sure reenacting this conversation right now, like World War III.
Yeah,
so y'all.
Drag him back in, Whick.
Yeah, look. I'm gonna be real with y'all. My Discord's usually popping, not always, right? There'll be some slow days, but there's usually active VCs, and they're usually popping. So if you guys like these kind of conversations, and I'm not streaming live, sometimes find them in my VC. But let's bring on the next guest if we're ready.
Definitely.
Hello.
𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙.
You're live, friend.
He's muted.
Oh yeah, you're muted on your
muted?
end. It's not my end.
She's muted. 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙.
Come, 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙. I love your picture, 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙. It's very nice. That's a very sly smile.
What you got for us, 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙?
My favorite character from Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
I can't hear you if you're trying to talk.
All right. Well, while you're turning it on, I've got a question for you.
Yay!
Okay. Oppenheimer or Barbie? Which did you see?
You're live, buddy. What you got for us? Can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
You're muted.
He's not muted on the Discord. We'll give him a minute. We'll give him a minute.
No. Oh, we've got Omar as well in back.
Well, we'll bring Omar in. Yeah, but let's get Corey first. Corey was waiting first.
Yeah.
And if 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙 comes back, we'll give him another try.
Yeah.
Corey, what's up?
Oh, hello?
You're live.
Hello.
All right, one second. One moment.
Got a camera for us? No, you have your
all that as we speak.
Beautiful. Beautiful. We need more man representation on these panels anyway.
I never claimed to be a man, ever.
I've been misidentifying you this whole time, if you're serious. So.
I'm not offended, but I'm not offended, but I don't think I've ever, put myself out there in that manner. But you can identify me however you want. I take no offense whatsoever.
Are you being serious right now?
Not really, no.
Oh, okay. I was like, because I try my best to make sure that I don't misgender anyone, and I do my best to
Oh no, I recognize that.
Okay, but like, it was just wild to me that if I had been doing it wrong this whole time, I would want to know, right? So
yeah, that's fair. I'm just pointing out you did make an assumption because I don't think I've ever identified myself. That's all more or less I'm highlighting.
Okay. What you got for us?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on, and also thank you for having me on a few weeks ago on that kink shaming panel. But I think I sent you a few weeks ago a short clip, and you said that you would watch it. Did you ever end up watching it?
I'm gonna be real with you. I don't remember the clip, so you're gonna have to refresh my memory.
I think it was like 45.
Watch it right
now? You can. I mean, I'll leave that. It's not my show. It's 45. But
hold on.
Go ahead.
𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙 Oh, the Tread Horde guy. I saw it. Yes, but
no,
this guy's...
not that. No, not the scroll up. An actual clip, video clip, not the Twitter thing.
I don't got nothing.
Really? Maybe.
Are you sure you sent me a clip? Did you?
Maybe I'm delusional. Let me.
Yeah. I'm looking at our Discord right now. I see.
Yeah. 07/15/2023. Remember, over a year ago.
7/15. Okay, so a while ago. So not just like last week. So like a month ago. You sent me a clip.
Whick.
Fair enough. I never saw this. So I never watched it.
But you don't have to watch. But
is it? How long is it?
It's like 45 seconds. Maybe
Give me
40
a second.
seconds.
Only because I love you. Hold on.
Getting your homework done.
Let me stream it so you all can watch it too.
Yeah.
Can y'all see this?
We are seeing.
Yep.
Getting your homework done requires your impulse control to match what psychologists refer to as sensation seeking, basically that urge to go and do something more fun, more exciting. And even in the most difficult years of adolescence, which are also the crucial years for educational success, girls have a reasonable balance between impulse control and sensation seeking. But it's a very different story for adolescent boys. They have higher levels of sensation seeking, and with that less developed prefrontal cortex, they have significantly lower levels of impulse control. Again, on average.
Okay, now we've seen it.
So, well, I also prompted. So in the message when I sent that clip, I also mentioned that over a year ago, wasn't I talking about the same thing? Didn't you also like poke fun at me when I brought up like self-control and a lack of discipline? I didn't really,
I probably did make fun of you. I don't remember specifically, but making fun of you tracks.
Oh.
No, this is something we do. But he makes fun of me too, so it's okay. It's a both sides thing. And not him specifically, but just people in general. It's what you like. I make fun of you. You make fun of me. It's a thing.
Yeah, I make fun of myself. Totally.
I don't know, right? Like I see the clip. I understand the clip. I don't think that if we're gonna act as if this is the answer to the problem, I don't like what's your answer here to this, right? Like, okay, say this is true. What then? Like, what does that mean for education?
Yeah, so that is a fair question. And that's why, I can also show you other clips. I've been talking about this over a year ago that precedes like this person, and this person spent a decent amount of time researching, writing pretty much an entire book about this issue. And I'll probably send you more clips showing that I've been talking.
Do you want to do a panel on it?
I think we have done a panel on it. I'll leave it up
men,
to Whick.
Why men are failing in education. Yeah, I've talked to him directly about this. I interviewed him about this.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah. and I brought up all the same issues, and I'll start compiling YouTube clips showing that I'm more or less saying the same things, but I didn't devote like years and years of research. Like I came to the same conclusions, I think maybe a little bit faster. So now you're asking a valid question of like, so then what do you do about it? Or like, what's the solution? So if you watch the full TED Talk, which I recommend everyone do, although they have a much...
if I can add some context to this, like to this discussion. So the issue that we are talking about here is that men, in ever increasing rates, are either failing out of college or just not going. They're not completing their course. They're either failing or not completing their course in college, or not high school. This is a problem, I believe, right? This is something that has changed. This is a trajectory. It used to be the reverse. Like 50 years ago, you flip-flop this on the head. But more and more and more, we're seeing more and more men just not go. And so the question was, why is it happening? What can we do about it? And, okay, fair. This is the reason it's happening. Let's go with that. The question remains.
Part of the reason.
Sure.
But there's a full talk.
A big enough part of the reason that we should take into account, right? So, given that that's true, what changes should we make? What should we do different to account for that?
Well, I'll give two answers. One is I'll give their recommendation from the TED Talk, because on here there will be a little bit of a divide in our opinions, because they attribute it to biology, as in pretty much the developmental trajectory of men and boys is essentially slower than girls, and therefore they recommend kind of like delaying when they start school. Pretty much like, I can't remember when children start school. But pretty much, instead of starting at like 6 or 7, started at like 8 or 9.
Okay.
Because they attribute to pretty much like it's a brain development. I would probably like slightly disagree there, maybe even strongly, because I don't think it's a developmental issue. I think it's largely a socialization issue, which it's probably a harder problem to tackle. I just don't think, just generally speaking, the way boys are socialized, that they don't have the ability to control their impulses, or pretty much to cultivate self-control. Because as I've tried to get the message across, self-control is actually, from what I understand, is an emotional process. It's not just gritting your teeth down or white knuckling it. It requires an emotional intelligence component. And I think starting from an early age, boys don't have that, and therefore they are set up to fail from an early age.
Do you think that?
First of all, I'm sorry. First of all, $2 from Adarius. Men and women should have equal rights. Brave, stunning.
Brave warrior, stunning.
Okay, carry on.
I was just going to ask, do you think that maybe teaching interpersonal relationship skills and like interpersonal communication just generally, would that be helpful? And I think you probably have some good insights into that, Fairy Queen, maybe as well, or some thoughts, but I'll ask that to you both.
I'll defer to Fairy Queen first.
Can you repeat the question, Sulfur? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Do you think that in terms of helping boys and honestly and young women, in terms of their educational success, if we were to teach interpersonal communication skills, like even more generally, as well as like an interpersonal relationships kind of programming, maybe in older, like junior or senior high. I'm never quite sure how to refer to the American high school structures system, but by high school to teach then relationships, but like interpersonal communication just at an early, like an ECE, early childhood education level, would that help set young men up better to engage with a system that really like alienates them and sets them up for less success in education?
In education specifically, I don't know about I'm not sure. So I think when we're talking about education specifically, so the question I would have, because I haven't looked at the data and I don't know. So everything that I'm saying right now is based off of impressions that I have and in my fifis and experience as a teacher. So I give this caveat because I could be very, very wrong. Okay. I am not sure. So we're talking specifically about college. Are the same number of men applying and going to college? That's a question that I would have. So
that has dropped as well, right? Like men overall, when they're going less, they're choosing to go less, and when they choose to go, they are failing more, right?
They drop
So-
out more. Yes.
Yes.
Pretty higher rates. Yes.
Oh, I guess I don't know what reasons do we think is that? Is it because of interpersonal communication that they're dropping out and choosing not to go to college at higher rates? Is that kind of what we're suggesting? I'm not sure
Well,
if
it's
that.
like
Go ahead, Sulfur.
no, you go. My only thought was that because of the combination of impulse control as well as like these social elements that are kind of present within schooling that I could see as being an issue, but yeah, I guess I'll pass. That would be
I
my
think
thought.
the argument that is put forth again through the TED Talk, and again they have written a book about it as well. But I think they come from the angle of, well, since this starts pretty much from early childhood, from pretty much the first stages of schooling, and pretty much boys feel perpetually behind, and that understandably that's a hit to their self-esteem, and let's say their self-worth over time. And so like once they get to the college level, not only do they not have the skills, but they're pretty much starting behind. They just don't feel competent. And therefore, even when they make it in there, they're kind of like floundering or like dropping out. Where it's really like, yeah, it gets to the university level, but pretty much like the roots of it seem to trace back to early childhood education, or pretty much in primary school, elementary school.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm not sure what the right answer is. I do know that there's a book that's written, and I apologize for the citation, but Christina Hoff Sommers, I think she wrote a book that was called The War on Boys. And that book specifically talks about the ways in which boys are treated in elementary schools as the way as opposed to girls are treated. So, and I can vouch for this because I've worked with little kids, like little boys, they do run around. They are rowdier. They are more likely to be noisy in class as opposed to little girls. Or little girls are more likely to sit and to do as they're told, right? So they're more likely to be successful in class. But I'm not sure. I mean, of course, we should.
I just have a follow-up question. Sorry to interject, but do you think, just based off of your experience, because you say, well, girls just tend to be like more obedient. Do you think that, or like they'll follow instructions? Do you think that is like a biological like genetic component, or like that starts like from a young age in terms of like pretty much maybe some like acquiescing or like respecting authority or people pleasing, broader term?
So I think it's a little bit of both is the real answer. The real answer is it's a little bit of both. I think that girls are socialized to be more obedient, and they're socialized to be quieter and to follow instructions. I do think that that's true. I also think that you can see, like, even at very, very young ages, like a 2-year-old girl versus a 2-year-old little boy, like very, very little, you can see a definite difference in the ways that they interact. Like 2-year-old little boys especially can be like, I mean, they throw things.
They're hell on wheels.
Yeah. I mean, and
I mean, I just have anecdotal experience, but I've seen toddlers that are girls throw things and
yeah,
I have
pretty
too.
like.
It's not that it doesn't happen, but I have seen it. It's far more likely to see a small boy to throw a tantrum and to become violent, to bite, and to behave in these ways as opposed to a little girl. I have seen that. So I don't know precisely what the reason is. You're asking whether or not socialization, like whether or not the answer is socialization. Of course, I think that more resources should be put into primary school. I think that more resources should be put in elementary school. When you're talking about interpersonal communication, I do think specifically with, and this has nothing to do with education, but with sex ed, I definitely think that that's true. So one of the programs that I had when I was in high school was a program called Can I Kiss You? That program existed specifically to try to teach kids in a very age-appropriate way. This is not the child porn take from before, okay? That is not what I'm talking about, okay? There was a guy.
Too late. We're already clipped it. We're already putting it out there. I'm tweeting it as we speak. Go on.
Okay. The speaker, for the context, his sister was raped in college. So he, as part of his vocation, was to go to different high schools. He would pick out a teenage boy. He would pick out a teenage girl. He would have them go up on a stage. He would have them sit on a couch, and he would have them practice asking to how, if whether or not they could kiss, right? And he very specifically would do this to try to model to everyone how you can ask for consent and how you can ask to engage and how you can ask somebody to date you without coming off as completely creepy and weird, right? And I think that programs like that are very appropriate, and I think that they're phenomenal, and I do think that they should be encouraged. having said that, I don't know if, even if we do try to adjust for socialization of small children, even if we do try to not use the excuse boys will be boys, even if we put all of these implements in place, I'm not sure if it's enough to get over the hurdle of encouraging boys to go to college. I think my assumption is that there is a broader social problem that I don't think that merely teaching boys to take responsibility and learning better self-control, I don't know if that's going to be the only answer. I think that there's probably
I agree with you. I want to be clear. I'm
Yeah.
not actually saying that you should just learn self-control, because I don't think that's useful. That's like saying someone, again, as someone who used to be a personal trainer, that's like saying to someone, just be disciplined. It's not helpful.
Yeah.
Where if it was that easy, people would do it all the time. It's like, well, what are the actual tools that get you there? And that's why I would put forth it's an emotional process. As in, since generally speaking, boys don't know how to engage with their emotions, and they're just like, here, I'll use an example. Who do you think is like socialized to be, let's say, more robotic and push their emotions to the side? Girls or boys?
Men, young,
And
boys.
Whick, would you agree or disagree with that?
No, I agree.
Okay, so with that aside, does your computer ever do anything unprompted? As in, just like left to its own devices,
Yes.
you not there? Does it? Yeah, but you understand the spirit of my
Called
question,
malware.
right? Yeah, but do you ever click on Discord and Chrome opens?
Not when it's working properly, no.
Yeah, because I would argue that pushed to the extreme, when you're socialized to be pretty much, or you push in the direction of being a calculator, you pretty much have no motivation to do anything.
Yep.
And you will just pretty much engage in pretty much the most easily accessible, pleasurable activities, such as whatever is highlighted in society now. Issues with porn. I have access to porn now. I don't really engage with it. Because like I know how to do other things to get what I want, not perfectly out of life, but at least I have the tools, some of the tools, that, again, it's largely a matter of like, if you think you're going to go in the direction of a robot, and you're going to be super motivated to do a bunch of things that are healthy for you, probably not.
No.
Drilling and killing has advantages. So, like, look at the Chinese school system. They do better than us. Their education system is more successful. You don't agree?
So you can socialize someone to be hyper competent in a very specific thing, but I would argue that society-wide they're paying a very huge cost socially, economically over the long term. And you're going to see this also in their demographics and in their relationships and all that stuff. It's like, yes, you can beat someone to be hyper competent, but that only works so long.
Okay, before we go too far, the trib for $2. Men have lower IQ, still better overall though. Fair enough. I don't know if that's true, but okay. Cryborn for $5. So are you saying boys be less capable?
No, but if anything, I would hope so. I would encourage everyone to watch the TED Talk, because
Who's
like
the guy?
again,
What's the guy's name?
Richard Reeves.
Richard Reeves. TED Talk.
Yeah. And I would say that like they put it in biology and like delaying when boys go to school. I don't think that's all that empowering. If anything, I actually believe in men to actually keep up with girls, and that it's a largely socialization problem. And that if you just obviously children have no control over their socialization, but hopefully at some point when you're an adult or teenager, you do, and you actually can cultivate the skills to succeed in not any domain necessarily, but let's say university or higher education, as opposed to like, well, yeah, I'll just go to school later, and then hopefully my biology keeps up. I don't think that's empowering personally.
Corey, it's been a pleasure, but we do have a line.
Always a pleasure.
For now.
Yeah, thank you. That
The
was
void.
To the void. That was actually really interesting because it tied in with a lot of the things that we were talking about over.
Tangentially, it got there, and it was good. And I always like Corey. I always like Corey. It's always an interesting.
I have the link
character.
to the TED Talk. Can I post it in?
Please,
where can I
please
post
do.
it?
Please do. And I guess while we're waiting, we're gonna try Meatwad again, then Omar, and then that's the order we're gonna go. Gang, if you're liking this content, if you're enjoying what you're seeing today, where I am having a call-in show with wonderful people, educated people, talk about weird things like how Testy Johnson hates pregnant women. If you like that kind of stuff, feel free to super chat. Feel free to sub to the channel if you haven't. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that like button, that subscribe button. If you're watching this on Twitch or Kick, follow if you haven't, and throw me some bits and subs. $2 from Tessie Johnson. No, make men smarter, only make women dumber. $5 from Haas
right.
Rodolph. Whick doesn't deserve rights, no matter what Corey says. Fair point.
Right up.
Okay. And on that note, bring in
Meatwad.
Meatwad. You're live.
Okay, can you hear me this time?
Yes.
Perfectly.
Excellent.
Yes, we
You
can.
got a camera for us?
Bad
Yeah.
kitty. Kitty decided to mess with the microphone. And my camera is on. Did I not hit the
Oh,
button?
when you
Sorry.
switch rooms, it turns it off.
Okay, here we go. You should be able to see me now.
Okay.
So
Hi.
I was asked a
Hey.
question about a hat earlier. I'm going with Barbie, but that's only because you are rocking a smoky eye very well right now. And so the hat with the smoky eye was giving very Barbie, not Oppenheimer vibes. I don't know if that's
Okay,
the answer
fair
you were
enough,
hoping
fair
for.
Fair enough. Okay. Actually,
so-
base Barbie take. Exactly.
Okay, so shocker. I'm not gonna have too many opinions on the dating habits of straight men because I'm not one.
Fair.
Wick said men are not bears. Some of us are, and Wick, if you turn
Yes.
to the dark side, you will be a bear. Just deal with it, and
he
you
would be
probably
an
have a lot
otter.
more action than you're
He'd
having
be
now.
like, he'd be an otter.
Fair
Come
enough.
on.
I'd be an otter. What's an
Maybe-
otter?
You
Otter's
don't
a
think?
skinny bear.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what his body looks like, and I hope I never find out. So that's just.
I've been to my-
no
Look,
my
offense.
people
local
have
bear
paid
bar
me
several
money.
times.
People paid me
Crazy.
money to take my shirt off and smear cake all over it, and not an insignificant sum. Okay, so fair enough, right?
There's no accounting
Maybe
for
you
taste.
hope that, but that
Oddly
is
enough,
always on
though,
the table. For enough money, I
That does
will-
segue. That does
Go on.
segue nicely into the topic, though. And so, no, I do not in any way think that children should be like fast tracked into accessing porn. Although, what's interesting is the average porn access age that you gave. Being my introduction to porn predates the internet, and that's right around the same time it happened anyway. So here's a shocker to no one. Even before the internet, young teenage boys were getting access to adult content. It was just usually stolen by someone's older brother or what have you. The issue that I have with the approach that's being taken towards this is I actually think that the way Pornhub approached Louisiana was pretty based. They partnered with a third-party service. Louisiana is one of the few states that offers a digital driver's license. And so Pornhub was not storing the data locally. Pornhub was going through a verification service. Now, if we contrast that to Texas, who is not only requiring some form of age verification, and I haven't read what the law will require, but I have read that it will require a significant warning on every web page saying basically porn bad. And what I don't want is I don't want the government getting into content moderation. So if they want to set an age limit, that's fine. But if they have a general approach that porn bad and we want to tell you porn bad, no, that doesn't work for me.
So you don't want like a warning on cigarettes, right? Like they have a warning on cigarettes. That,
well, because oddly enough for cigarettes, we have vetted health data that actually shows the biological effects of cigarettes.
Well,
on
we have
humans.
correlation. It's not causation, right? Like we don't actually have data. That
Then
shows
we should have no
causation. We have
medications and no one should ever go
correlation.
to the doctor and we should just all die at 30 and we can go down that route. But what I'm saying is that there is, given that there is no, if you want to do that, then why in the world should violent content be allowed? Why was Avengers Endgame rated PG-13? It should have been rated X.
I mean,
it should have been rated NC-17.
There wasn't, but there
Yep.
wasn't a content warning on that. Being that it was PG-13, that is a content warning. That is
Right, but
saying,
I'm saying
this is
that-
not appropriate for children under a certain age. That's a content
Right, and any sort of a
We're fine with
content
that,
warning
right?
that says that porn is inappropriate for anybody, I object to, because that's not their call to make. And I don't feel that you have. If you have data that supports that, I think that'd be an
what
interesting
about
panel
gambling?
topic.
Do you feel the same way for that?
Yeah.
Right? Do you think that the government has or shouldn't be warning people about the dangers of gambling? Because for gambling, for a lot of people, it's not addictive. For
Well,
a lot
it's
of people,
gaming.
it's just
It's gaming
fine.
in most of the
Gambling
southern
is,
states.
can gambling is gambling
gamble.
biochemically addictive in the way that heroin is? No. Is it addictive as anything that deals with dopamine reactions in the brain? Yes. Is it as addictive as social media? Probably less so. Maybe for some people more so. So, Whick,
Yeah.
do you want a disclaimer on your Twitter page? Do you want to have to run a disclaimer banner on your stream saying
I do run one
engaging
on
with
my
this
stream.
content may be harmful?
I do run one on my stream. Like I have mature
They just
content
made-
warning. Like
they
I
just
it
No,
actually
not just
happened.
mature content warning. Just saying that
Content
engaging with
warning
this
is bad
content
for
may be
you.
harmful. Period.
I don't know if I have a big problem with that, right? Like if that's all you put, if that's the moderation, I don't know if I have a problem with that. That because that just seems to be giving people more information, and they could choose to ignore it if they want. But I think that
Yeah,
like
I don't.
having some sort of like a label or something saying, "Hey, these are the potential downfalls that you might encounter with this." Not
Let's say
everyone
it has
does.
to cover up 25% of this surface area of your stream, black text, white background.
Like the whole
25%
stream?
of the screen. Yes.
Yeah, I have a
25%
problem
of the.
with that, right? Because
Okay.
if it's the whole stream, but as a thing to get access to it, I don't have a problem.
No,
with it, right?
that's
Like,
not what
Right.
Texas has mandated, though. Every page you would visit on the adult content website has to have a disclaimer that porn bad in 14-point font on every page. That's literally what the Texas law says. And that's I have no problem with disclaimers on intermediate pages or at
Yeah.
age verification pages. But basically, if you have an anti-porn agenda, I don't want the government pursuing that because I have a very strong view of free speech. So
Yeah.
no,
Sure.
I don't want the government trying to control speech. And the other part I object to is I think as we've seen with the various laws trying to quote unquote protect children from getting their genitals removed or whatever they say, those laws start with, saying you're there for the children is a great way to start when you actually want to block everybody from doing something. And so we've seen in Florida that, they started with saying we're here to protect children, and now no one can access gender affirming care. And so I have a strong inherent distrust.
I get
Now,
you.
the
I get you on the
solution that
distrust. If I may tackle this though, right? If I may tackle this, I think there's a fundamental difference between protecting kids from porn, which, well, I guess I'll just ask you: do you think porn is harmful for kids? If they viewed porn, like I saw my first porn video when I was 11 years old, do you think that did me harm?
I don't know. I don't know if it did me harm. I got access to a stash of porn mags when I was 12.
Sure, I think it did. I think porn for children is harmful. I think that's one of the reasons we should keep kids away from porn, because I think it actually messes with them cognitively, developmentally, and it warps their view on sexuality in a way that we don't want. I think it's bad.
Okay.
I think it actually does.
Have you
harm.
heard me advocate for giving children access?
No.
No,
But
no.
I'm using this as a baseline to say.
Okay.
And this is a thing where we've already diverged because you don't think it's necessarily harmful. I do. And that's fine if you don't, right? Like, I'm not a scientist here.
I don't have evidence for it.
Sure,
I'll
sure,
put
sure,
it that way.
But I think that on its face, intuitively, and anecdotally, right, it has harmed me. And I think that the potential for harm being there is so much, and it's such that it does justify some kind of restrictions on it for children. I think it does justify the government taking steps to block access and protect children from it, because I am a big believer in freedom of speech and freedom of rights. But like every other right, I think we grow into our rights. Like, I wouldn't give the same rights to a 3-year-old that I would to a 30-year-old. I don't think that a 3-year-old is capable and able to be responsible enough to have access to the same rights a 30-year-old does. Do you disagree with that?
I don't disagree with any of that. And in fact, as I stated, the way it's implemented in Louisiana is fine for me.
Sure.
So
yeah, if you just have a problem with the way it's been implemented, okay, fair.
Texas.
So
yeah.
what I have a problem is with if it's being used as a backdoor method to try and eliminate porn, and the organizations that have been pushing for these kind of laws have a stated agenda of completely removing adult content from the public sphere. Right.
Yep.
So I have a problem with that. Now, I also have a solution, but I can guarantee you that you won't like it.
Let's hear it.
so the part of the problem with some of the laws and the way they've done is what I absolutely. So if your law would require the only way for you to be able to validate yourself to this service is to give them a copy of your driver's license, and they hold on to that in perpetuity, that's a no-go for me, because that is such a trove of personally identifiable information. It will get hacked, and that will be a nightmare. So that's completely out.
What
And
about
I
a
would
credit
say that,
card?
well, no, that they've said credit cards aren't sufficient, right? Credit cards is a form of identification.
Well, it's
aren't
more sufficient than what we have now.
These, well, no, but let me finish. These
Okay,
laws
please.
have all said so far they want government issued ID. And I have a problem with that, because I would say that when I go to the grocery store and I buy liquor, they don't copy down my ID. They just look at it for a second and verify that I am. So what I would suggest is two things. Number one, this service that they're using in Louisiana, All Trust, something like that, whatever, that needs to be a service that is run by the government. And I think that we should have a nationally issued ID that is issued at birth that replaces the Social Security number, which is the stupidest thing ever and was never intended to be used as a unique identifier, and that it should be tied to a DNA sample that's taken so that we can, and we need to have strong laws about when this data can be accessed to protect privacy. But if I had a government issue ID that is as secure as possible, and the government's providing the third-party identification service, then the government is attesting to the website that I am old enough to view this content. And yay, great, perfect. All the liability is now on the government. It's not, because here's the thing: is if Pornhub has to hold this database and it gets breached, Pornhub gets sued into oblivion. And so if Pornhub is not willing to take that liability, it's entirely correct for them to block their service in states that are going to try to make them take on this liability. I support them saying the liability for this is not something that we're prepared to accept.
I want to engage with this for a moment. I have mixed feelings about this suggestion. I think that something needs to be, obviously, right? While credit cards may not be sufficient, I don't need it to be perfect. I just need it to be better than it is now in a significant margin. And I think there's a reason that OnlyFans is better at age gating than Pornhub is, right? And it's one of the reasons they require a credit card, as I understand it. I think that simple obstacle for children isn't going to solve it, but it is going to make it better. Now, when we talk about a national ID,
it's a paid gate on top of, some people have free OnlyFans, but they only can do X, Y, and Z on them now. But that's a paid gate, and I'm all for a paid gate as well.
I think you could. You could just the fact of having a credit card, right, is going to limit.
Kids will steal it though, so you have to have
obviously, right?
I don't object to the credit card. I just, from what I've seen with all the laws that have been proposed, none of the people proposing these laws find it to be sufficient. They want it to be a quote-unquote government-issued ID.
Okay, but I'm not to be clear, I'm not a religious. I'm not coming at this from a I want to eliminate porn angle.
What I'm saying,
so it might not be okay with them, who you said that's their stated goals. But I think for reasonable people having this discussion, I think it might be. I don't know.
But I think my point more ties into a broader topic you were discussing earlier, and that is how do people in general control access to the internet for their children? And what I'm saying is if we all have and it would work exactly like when you go to a website and you see log in with Facebook or log in with Apple. It would just be log in with your government ID. And that way we would have the ability to absolutely make sure that we are controlling what children access, because they would be using these credentials to do it. We know that they are, so from the ages of whatever age we decide children should be able to access the internet. And I have no opinion there. I have no idea what that should be. Not going to have kids. But there are some advantages here. On the other hand, I understand there's a lot of privacy concerns with it. It'd have to be done. I don't have any faith in the ability for the government to be done right, but I see no technical limitation why it couldn't be done.
I understand. Like that would be my concern, right? Like the DNA sample tied token, right? That it tickles the part of my brain that's read a lot of sci-fi dystopia stories, right? That's like, oh, I don't know about this, gang. Now, like that aside,
biosurveillance would be my concern, but
I do recognize that something must be done. Because it is To use perhaps hyperbolic language, it is a epidemic. I would posit intuitively that the harm that, again, because I think there's a fundamental difference between having someone buy you a porn mag, like having your older brother buy you a porn mag and then sharing it with your friends. I think there's a fundamental difference between that and what kids have access to today, where you can find literally anything, right? As a 13-year-old boy who's tech savvy on the internet, you can find the most, it's at your fingertips and available to you in your pocket, right? It's in your pocket every day. You can carry it with you. There is no separation from it like there was.
I get that you don't
right?
trust parents. You said you don't trust parents in this regard. So I got my first computer when I was in the 3rd grade. It was an Apple IIe, and I had computers all the way through the time all the way I left through home. And I was not allowed to have it in my bedroom for forever, right?
Yes.
It was like, no, the computer, Now, did that mean that my parents still understood what I was doing? No. Did I get into trouble? Did naughty hacking happen? Okay, yes. We didn't have adult content on computers back then, but we could still get in trouble. But in generally speaking, my parents' approach was, we want to be able to at least keep an eye on what you're doing. I empathize with parents who have to deal with technology. I live here in Silicon Valley, right? So all my friends with kids are all tech savvy people. They kind of do some things to try to protect their kids. It is a problem that needs to be solved in general. It's not just a porn content thing. It's also a violent content thing.
Well, yeah. We talked about that earlier, right? Like, this is the sulfur's take that kids shouldn't have access to the internet, period, which I wouldn't go so far as. I think kids shouldn't have access to a large portion of the internet.
But like our normal internet is what
but
unbridled.
The other part to keep in mind, though, is that the things that kids will have access to are tools that I do find very important, like Tor and whatnot. So the problem you're going to run into is that any of the tools that you would use to try to control what they access are going to run smack into tools that are designed to maximize privacy, which are also important tools for other things. So it's not an easy problem. But suggesting that companies like Pornhub want to serve porn to minors, I honestly don't think they do.
I don't think they want to. I don't think that they're concerned about it enough to do what they would need to do to stop it, right? Like, they may not want to, but they're just, it's like they're not concerned enough about it. Like,
so
because you're a Pornhub expert. Go ahead.
Well, I don't use Pornhub. I specifically dislike the service completely. But as someone who makes content on adult spaces, like, Pornhub has repeatedly, historically, never done all of the things that were necessary, and their response to a lot of this is like, well, why don't the ISPs block it? Why do we have to block it? Why don't the cell phone providers block it? Why do we have to block it? So, like, it's just, once again, this kind of thing. The only reason that they had anything changed to begin with to any of the content that was stolen or like of actual sexual assaults and get taken down was because MasterCard and Visa said, no, we're revoking your payment processors. And I think debanking is evil. And I don't respect that. But obviously MasterCard and Visa both have very anti-porn, anti-adult material biases, and there are a lot of the companies that are pushing these bills to say, like,
I have a huge and I also have a huge problem with it. The steps you have to go through when you go to a dispensary to buy a product that's legal is just stupid. The thing I would point out that's interesting is that, again, I don't really use Pornhub either. But the thing that I find interesting
just real quick, do we have any Pornhub stands in the audience? Do we have any Pornhub enjoyers? Because we're all been doing this couch thing, like, well, we don't actually access this, but we're all talking about it.
Hold on, let me finish. So in Louisiana, for example, you don't get redirected if you go to X Hamster, which is the best name ever, or X Videos. So some of these companies aren't based in the US. They aren't going to play by these rules. They don't have to play by these rules. So Pornhub kind of tries to do the right thing in the sense that they, when laws are passed, they do try to obey them. Either you can still find all the weird stuff on X Hamster and X Videos and who knows what else. And so that's the other problem is how are you going to regulate content outside the United States?
Yeah.
We do not rule the world yet, so our
no,
laws
but
have.
much of the internet is
yet.
under U.S. like Section 230 for
Wick has got
example, right?
plans. Wick has obviously got
Bro,
plans.
Meat,
Tanky based.
thank you for being here.
Thank you.
But for now,
Thank you so much for coming by,
Thank
Meatwad.
you,
to the
Meatwad.
void. Wait, did that guy just
We
call me a
should-
tanky?
It's interesting. You know,
I'm an
I'll
imperialist.
interject here. This is just some me being kind of a nerd. Do you guys know the Andrea Dworkin? Everyone knows the Andrea Dworkin
Dworkin,
anti-porn. Yeah, everybody knows. Like, okay, so for the people in the audience that don't know, Andrea Dworkin was a feminist in the 90s who went on an anti-porn campaign. She tried to make porn. She argued that it was a violation of women's constitutional rights and tried to make it illegal and federally illegal to act.
Yeah.
She and another lawyer named Catherine McKinnon tried to file a suit and tried to actually make that occur. And so everybody, you should be well aware of the fact that she wrote a lot of books. She wrote many articles and often went on many campaigns trying to say, and she made some specific claims about pornography. She claimed that it was largely violent. She claimed that it was full of victims of sex trafficking. If you see the documentary of the people that she interviews who are involved in this within pornography, the women that she interviews have been through some horrible things. They talk about being sex trafficked, being prostituted, being violently
the worst.
Yes, she did. Well, there was a critic, though, who is lesser known of Andrea Dworkin, and her name was Gail Rubin. And Gail Rubin wrote she's well known within academia. I don't think she's not well known outside of it. She wrote a great deal of queer theory, and she's known for heralding it within those spaces. And she wrote an article basically critiquing Dworkin's arguments about pornography. So some other backgrounds about this, and I'll explain why this is relevant. She founded the first lesbian sadomasochist community. It was
the
called
leathers,
the lesbian leather community. She, I'm not sure if she helped to produce
a lot of fun
lesbian leather pornography. I do think that she knew people who did and were adjacent to that. So she was familiar with this type of material. And she
also the birth of the feminist porn movement, really. She's great.
She went and reviewed some of the pieces of pornography that were being critiqued by anti-porn feminists in the 90s, and she had a ton of critiques of what they said. One of the criticisms that she had was that the violent pornography that was being displayed, the Andrea Dworkin stands argued that constituted most of the pornography, that this pornography was being accessed the most, that it was being widely spread. And yet they didn't provide any data to actually show that was true. There was no data as to what the percentage of it was. Some of the BDSM pornography that was being shown, anti-porn feminists would say that the women within it could not possibly like it or could not possibly be enjoying the acts that were being played. She was a part of the lesbian leather community and could vouch for the fact that, in fact, there were women who were very interested in that type of material. And so... And another aspect of her critique was that as what was his name? Meatwad, I think
Meatwad,
Meatwad. As Meatwad was alluding to, oftentimes critiques of pornography and critiques of over-sexualization using children, and in his case, he was talking about using Save the Children. It's also true that Save the Women were over-sexualizing. That's also used as an excuse to discriminate against sexual minorities. So, she gave an example, for instance, of gay pornography in particular being censored because people were afraid. What if the children got a hold of it? And that was an excuse to shut down a lot of queer pornography studios who were trying to produce ethical pornography for that audience. So I think that when we're talking about access to pornography, access to violent pornography, people who are accessing it at higher rates, I do not have the numbers at my fingertips, but I think it would be really, really useful if a panel were to happen on this, that somebody comes in and actually seriously, how much of it is actually violent in comparison to the rest of it? What do the statistics actually show? I think that without that data, it's going to be really difficult because otherwise we're just going to be talking about our experiences.
I understand. I think that this is a problem
I'd
with
love
data.
to do that panel, by the way. I would love to do that panel.
The problem with
I can get that
data like this is there's an old quote, there are lies, there are damn lies, and then there are statistics.
Hi, Omar.
Hi, Omar. Omar,
Hello.
welcome. Do you have a
Hello?
take on this?
Omar.
Hold on, give me a thing. My glasses. Look at my glasses.
Get your
My
glasses so you can
glasses.
see.
Look at my glasses.
We can't see it.
Where are
We
they?
can't see you.
We
so.
can't see you. We're looking at your icons glasses. We're staring into eyes that cannot look back.
Yes.
Please turn your camera on.
Omar, can we meet your wife sometime?
Oh, yeah.
I'd love to have her tell me stories. I don't speak Arabic very well, but I can translate at the same time.
Hello.
Hello.
All right,
Hello.
what you got?
Hello.
Yeah,
Hello?
you're here.
Oh, he's
Oh,
deafened.
okay.
He's deafened.
He's having
Deafened.
some
Definitely.
troubles. Okay.
Can we undeafen him?
He's not deafened
Can
on
you
my
undeafen
end. He
him?
deafened himself.
No, I see the deafened.
Yeah, he's
Oh.
He
definitely
deafened
on our end.
himself. I
Oh.
did not do this.
Wallahi.
Can you
Hello.
hear us, buddy?
Hello.
Can you hear us?
I think
Hello?
he's back. Hello.
Hold on, man.
Okay, well, you're having some trouble. I didn't remove him either. I don't know what's going on.
Can you see the color?
Hey, it looks. I like it.
Can you
It
see
looks
the
pretty.
color?
It matches your headphones.
Yeah, I chose well.
Yeah.
That was the color I picked, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
said a purple, so
I'm gonna take all the
Yeah.
credit for it.
it's,
For how good it looks.
yeah.
All the credit.
It's-
Every single bit of credit. It's the man.
It's really
The man who
hard.
chose. You want to be clear?
It's
Okay.
a much more purple. If I can just do like the influencer, I might have to if I fuck with my light here.
Okay, so
Maybe
I need
this-
to tear apart some of that meatball dude's argument stuff. And
Hold
I'm
on. Let
more
me
than
turn
willing
you.
to
Can you
talk to
turn
him.
yourself up? Your mic is like you're talking like.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh the bar up here got adjusted. I need to tear apart some of that meatball dude's argument
Okay,
because
go
like
ahead.
some of the shit that he was saying is like not feasible. So like he was talking about like having like ID required shit to be able to access the internet. The only way that is possible is if we were to develop basically if the government were to take control of all of the ISPs in the country and have the ISP be like one big ISP, government-run ISP like they do in China. That's the only way that would ever be feasible. And it's the same reason why like banning TikTok and shit here in the United States was never feasible, is because we don't have a system like that. That you could require porn sites to do like ID verification or credit card verification. That would be perfectly fine. That would work perfectly well. But what he was talking about is not something that would ever be feasible unless the government took control of all internet access. And on top of like the parental control stuff that he was talking about, like that shit's so fucking easy. They like you have like if you're a parent and your kid has like a fucking any Android phone, they have the family link shit where you can access and set it up to where you have to approve every app they can go to. If you get like an ASUS router, which is something that I have, you can quite literally block any fucking website or any type of website from being able to be accessed. Like parental controls are super easy.
So why couldn't they? So let me. I'm not a tech guy, so I could be speaking out my ass here, and please tell me if I am. But why would it be so unreasonable to have the government simply require? Why would they need like more control over them? Why couldn't they just enforce this on the ISP? Like, hey, when you are letting someone log in, you have the ISP. If you're operating in our country, you have to do a callback to this database that we have in order for them to access you. Right? Why is that unfeasible?
That would require the government to open up, have their own servers that the ISP would have to bounce information from.
Sure. What's
every
wrong?
time you
That wouldn't
access the
require
internet.
that would require control of the ISP, though, right?
Not necessarily, but it would. There would be a lot of programming involved, and it would be something that would be very complicated to set up.
Yeah, I don't mind if it's a little hard. Like, I'm willing to require companies to do something that's a little bit hard if it protects kids from porn.
So I'm like requiring the porn sites to do it and stuff is perfectly fine. Because that's just requiring the porn sites to add an extra level of security on their shit. But like requiring the ISPs to do an ID verification thing to be able to access the internet in general, that would be significantly harder because of the way that internet access works, and that would actually probably be a lot easier to get around. So the ISP is basically I'm not going to go too deep into how like connecting to the internet works, but the ISP is basically like part of the transport layer of like getting to servers to access the internet, and which is like you do that through like a DNS and all of this other stuff. Like I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible, but like somebody could go and set up a DNS that would literally get around all of this shit. Like it would be like the ISP doing it. It would be relatively easy.
As a non-tech guy, as a non-programmer, I don't know, right? Like I don't know which one of you is right. I have no way to judge or tell. I'm just saying. I guess my argument here is that there needs to be something. We have no age gates that are effective right now. None that we require to be used. Right? We only have if you're just ensure you're over 18. Click this button, or 21 in some states, right? Click this button, and that stops no one ever, right? That stopped no one ever. So we need something like the whole DNA like ID is a little out there for me, right? I think that maybe we can find something a little less invasive to use, but I don't know about the as to the technical is this possible side. I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, like having them set up, like having the regulating the porn sites themselves to like set up ID verification and shit for people that are in the United States would not be as hard, and it's definitely or even credit card verification would still not be as hard, and it's something more feasible that a lot of sites already do, like browsers, shit like that. So like that's stuff that's already feasible. But I was more focused on like what he was talking about, because he was talking about it to like be able to access the internet in general, and that's not feasible unless we were to create a system similar to how China's internet access works, where it all goes through the government,
which would be bad in my opinion. I think China does it poorly. It is dangerous to give the government that much control. That said, I do think that regulations are good, and requiring regulations on pornographic providers isn't out of pocket.
The least they could do.
Right, it's not out of pocket.
Regulation's fine.
Okay, Vigilante. Thanks for coming on. We're gonna go quick with these because I know time is of the essence.
My time is a little bit less of the essence. I just told my community that I was here. So
okay, fair enough. I wanted to be respectful. So yeah, if you guys are wanting to keep going, people still want to talk, so why not, right? Cool. Based. Let's try Omar again. Let's see if Omar
and we have
if Omar can hear us.
Omar.
And thank you for the $5, Omar.
Hello.
Hi, can you hear us?
Hello.
Hey, what's up?
Okay, you can hear us now. Excellent. What do you got for us, Omar?
I had to go pray and come back.
Oh, okay.
Hold on. You hear me great now?
You're fine.
Perfect.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know how to mix the all right, I got to go back. Remember you were talking about the disparity between women and male and female in colleges, right?
Yeah, I remember.
Yes.
We go, yeah. Well, I have a different outtake. Mine is a more extreme, and you know how extreme I am. I'm a little crazy.
What do you got for us? What do you got for us?
Well, what I'm saying is that I think that male and female should be separated, and each one should go to their own school, and let boys be educated by men, and build that confidence. Because right now, males are not confident. Even you could link it to what's going on with the sex industry. The porno, with all the only me fan, whatever it's called, only you fan, whatever it's called, it is attracting men who don't have any confidence or access to women. This is a sexual thing. But in education, I think you separate the boys and the girls in early school up to high school at least. Let them be around men. Let them build their self-confidence again. Because you guys hear me or no?
Yeah, I'm listening. I'm listening. I'm waiting for you to finish your point.
because nobody's yelling at me yet. So what? Yeah. What,
Well,
I know.
so I'll
Okay, let me
interrupt you first. We're not
Okay.
talking about like what the Taliban just did when they were like, "Oh, of course, women, they got to
Yeah,
school,
but
right?"
no, the Taliban is an extreme organization. They say
Thank
they don't
you.
want they don't want to teach
good.
girls at all. What I'm
No,
saying
I
is that
know.
we live
Yeah.
in a society where women have dominated the social scene, the everything. Men have become
Second class, the most oppressed class.
I think
Are
men are lost
are
right
men the
best.
now.
most
They have
oppressed
no
class?
confidence. For
Yeah.
example, Whick, all this sex industry is all targeted for men because the majority of men
Yeah.
do not have access to women. Did you know, Whick, that only 20% of men are having all the sex with the women? The rest of us are just getting lucky, just hit by like a drive-by, everything. If you get lucky once in a while. So these men have become addicted to porn, to OnlyMeFans, to Instagram, wherever they spend money, billions of dollars, because they have no way to interact with women in real life and meet women and introduce themselves and have that confidence to talk to women and accept women if they
What do
say
you
no.
think about this, Fairy Queen? Do you think only 20% of the men are having all the sex? And
Yeah.
do women dominate the social structure?
Let's dial it back because he was talking specifically about schools, and
Yeah.
so this is just this is based off of what I remember. Somebody can check me on this. I do think that there is some statistics. I do think that there is some data that does show that girls specifically do perform better than in single sex schools, perform better than girls in co-ed schools. I do think that there is data.
Yeah.
I don't know if that data exists for boys. I would not be surprised though if it does. I think that like it is true. I think
should.
that like it's true that in school systems that are single sex, that only have boys, that only have girls, I do think it's true that they generally tend to outperform co-ed peers. I do think that there is some data to support that.
Thank you.
However, what you were saying specifically was you were saying that the reason why we should do this is because it would help to boost male self-confidence, and
Right.
that only men should teach, like adult men should be teaching these teenage or we should be teaching boys,
Boys,
and
yeah.
women should only be teaching girls. And there are going to be some problems specifically with that. A couple of things. The first one would be, I mean, frankly, just a value-based thing, a value-based problem, right? If I am a principal and I am trying to find the best teacher, if I'm looking for teachers to come into my school, right? Unless it's a special situation, I'm not really at least I don't think I would be thinking about the gender of the teacher too much, right? What I care about is, are you an effective teacher? Are you the best teacher possible for the job to come in, right? So when you say that it has to be a man or it has to be a woman, the problem with that is that you are therefore precluding a lot of valuable candidates. You're not really looking for the best possible teacher for the job. You are looking instead for this value that not everyone must hold, right? So that's the number one problem, is that you're cutting out a ton of potentially good teachers. The second problem is just the number of people who are teachers. So when we're talking about high school or college, there are plenty of male teachers. That's not true when you're in an elementary school. I think it's a huge amount of women it's mostly women that work in elementary schools, right? It's mostly women who work in elementary, and mostly I think that tends to be it's not a problem though. It's not a problem. Think of it this way, okay? And this is a little bit sexist, but think about it. If I am a mom, right?
No, thank you for the raid, Stardust. Sorry.
Hey, let me respond a little bit. You're gonna
Sorry.
put too much on the
hang on.
table.
Well,
You're gonna put too much on the table.
Well, I just want to make sure I respond. So if I'm a mother, right, and I have my small toddler boy, right, I have two schools I could bring my toddler boy to. I can bring my toddler boy to go to a school that is only taught by men, or a school that is only taught by women. Which of those two schools do you think I'm going to be more comfortable dropping my toddler off at?
Well, it's not what you're comfortable with. It's what's good for the toddlers. We need
Do
to
you
go.
think it's better for the toddler to be in a school with all men or with all women? A baby boy.
What's toddler? What's toddler? Are you talking kindergarten or what? What are you talking about?
Kindergarten.
Yeah.
Do you think that?
Okay,
Do you want?
Well, that's like daycare. We're talking about second grade, third grade, and up. When boys start
Okay.
to.
Okay, fine. Second grade, third grade. Do you want all of the second grade teachers for all of the boys to only be men? Do you think that
Yes.
is an elementary school you would feel comfortable dropping your son off? I would not feel comfortable as a parent doing that personally.
Why?
Why? Well, because, and this is sexist, and it's not fair of me to say this statistically speaking, even though it's true that there are
stuff. I'm telling you, hold on. We're trying to build the confidence of males. You're missing the point here. What are you trying to say? The
No,
males
no,
don't
no,
have-
no, no. You didn't let her finish, Omar.
She's talking. She's mute.
I'm not mute. I can turn my. I don't know. Like, I don't have perms.
You're
I can't turn
fine.
myself
You're
up.
fine. Go ahead.
While I hear you, and while it is true that educationally boys, especially in high school, do tend to outperform their co-ed peers. If we're talking about a school where there is only male leadership, there are no women involved, especially when we're talking about very young and small boys, that is an environment that I do not feel would be safe to drop my son off. And that might be sexist, but
In what way?
even though female pedophiles do exist,
Hold on. In what way?
Statistically speaking, in a large school with lots of men who are all working with very young children, is a situation where my child is probably more likely to be ignored, probably less likely to be listened to, and probably more likely to be abused. And
you're not listening to me. The teachers are the male, but you could have social workers, you could have principals, you could have aides, you could have that. But what I need is, I cut off again. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. We hear it. Go.
No, when I talk, I think I cut off. The whole idea, she's thinking about it in sexually, that these men going to sexually abuse the kids. Most teachers, women sexually abuse their students in a way they have sex, if you look at it throughout what's going on. But hold on. I'm not saying the whole school is going to be...
Statistics don't bear that, but...
but mostly, you see in the news, female.
Of course. Okay. They do exist, but it is predominantly a psychosexual affliction of men.
Okay, hold on. Don't think about it. I know you girls are like that. Women. What I'm saying. Hold on. Let me finish.
I mean, of course.
You see, this is what I'm talking about. That's why boys need men. You see, you're already dominating the conversation with me, and I'm a big guy in front of you, 200 pounds and 6 feet tall. Listen to me. What I'm talking about, that boys, like for example, boys react to their mother different to their father. Women are more lovable, more affectionate, huggy. What do you need, honey? What do you need, baby? Don't do that again. Men are more rigid, talk strong. So you have to build that in boys, because early age, the most important time is when they're 2 to 3, 4, 5, as they grow older. You have to build that self-confidence in them. You don't want to build a generation of losers like what we have now. We have losers like Whick. See, Whick is a loser. Sorry, Whick, I just had to hit you there on the side. You don't want to build a generation of losers who stay home, watch porn. Look at that guy.
I'm curious why I'm a loser.
No, I just said that just to get your attention. I want to get you to react.
I'm listening.
So I just want to make more enemies than I already have. I need an ally right now. So what I'm saying is that it's the most important time. Even when they say women graduate more than men, but they graduate dumb profession. Social workers, they don't make a lot of money. Teachers, social workers, men, even they graduate less, they earn more. They have better, like computer engineering, like business administration. They have better majors than women do who graduate liberal arts. You know how many women in liberal arts just run around in fucking college doing nothing right now? You understand? So the whole idea is that okay, now did we address the school thing yet, or we still have more to
I don't know what I'm going to be real with you, Omar.
There's a lot more to add there. I mean, number one, first of all, I welcome a generation of more Whickers. Okay, it's great. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, okay, listen, I have worked as a camp counselor, as a substitute teacher. I've worked in a lot of schools, okay? The majority of young men, there just isn't this population, huge population of male teachers who all want to work as elementary school teachers or as kindergarten teachers, okay? And I'm not saying that you can't find a wonderful guy who can't be a great kindergarten teacher, but by and large, the majority of pool of people that you are going to pull to be in those schools, it's going to be women. Most men do not want to be kindergarten teachers. They do not want to be elementary school teachers, okay? So it would be very difficult to pull this off, okay? So I don't know where you're going to find all of these men that desperately want to empower the virility of a 5-year-old boy like in kindergarten. You're not going to find that population of people. But even if you could, right? And what I'm saying again is, even if it's the case like that, even if it's the case that nobody is sexually abused, as if I was a mom and if I had a small boy, I would feel far more comfortable dropping my son off with a group of women to take care of him, as opposed to a huge group of men. Okay. Because even if it's the case that sexual abuse isn't on the table, being ignored, being yelled at, a lack of patience, a lack of temperament, I do not think that most men are prepared to deal with the chaos that is an elementary school classroom. I don't think the vast majority of them do not want that job, and the men that I have seen who have tried to do that job become far more impatient and lose their temper far quicker than like a female teacher.
You know how many men or young men are in their mother's basement with college degrees or bachelor's degrees, whatever it is. We could attract them to teach boys, and you're worried. We could have, like social workers, women there oversight. Even the principal could be a woman. The teacher assistant could be a woman. But what you're missing the point.
Your teacher is not your mom, right? Your teacher is not your dad. Your teacher is your teacher, right? Your dad is supposed to be your dad, right? So, like, with you talking about this, you're kind of off-shouldering the responsibility of the parent. Dad to step up onto the school system, right? The person who's supposed to be the male role model to your son is your dad, right? It's your dad, it's your grandfather, it's the men within your family, it's your coach, it's those. Your teacher does not have to embody what it is to be a man or what it is to be a woman to their students, right? That's the responsibility of the parents to teach that, right?
Yeah, you see, personally, I have great memory. I was what do you call it? I was more influenced by a male teacher. His name is Mr. Siegel. He's probably dead by now. Old junior high school. Then women, because he taught me how to think. And social, I had social study with this man. God bless his soul. He taught me how to question government authority, how to question corporate America. I'm talking about a long time ago. Right now, this man was teaching me all the stuff that we're teaching right now. So I think about that, man. When things happen, I say, "Oh, Mr. Siegel said that and that." But the whole idea, what I'm trying to say is that men right now are losers right now. Men are losers right now. They're losing in every way you could think about it. Suicide. Hold on. 80% of suicide is by males. More male are transferring to female than female to male. The transgender community. Even the fucking guys are confused.
Not true.
Some of them. Yes, it's true. Go look it up.
It's not true.
More male are transferring to female than female are transiting to men. It is very go look at just Google. You got Google in front of you. That's why. So what I'm saying is that that's why you have this women who have become muscular. Like they're like men right now.
You don't like a dummy mommy, man? You don't appreciate the muscle mommies?
I think women should be obedient to their husband, and they should show.
But putting that aside, the fact that if they wanted to, carry you out of a burning building because, or if Viking raiders came and raided the village, that they could protect you as you hid or were injured. Say you got injured, you were trying to protect your family, you got injured. Having a muscle mommy that's able to step in and to protect you, right? When you maybe you got hit in the back of the head, and having them being able to save the day and carry you over their shoulders off. Is that not hot to you?
No, because the female thing kicks right in. Women, they always say men and kids first. Understand? Women cannot go into a burning building or jump into places. They don't do that. They scream and yell and run with the kids. It's their nature.
Okay.
Have you never seen a mom lift half of a car because her kid got pinned under it? There's some crazy cases.
Yeah, that's once out of in the blue moon. But women, women are not men. Let's be honest right here.
Of course we're not. Okay? Yeah, of course we're not.
You don't have the same strength. You don't have the same ability to face pain, to go into danger.
Who goes to war? Much better at pain.
Hang on about that. I don't know.
Women handle pain significantly better.
Yeah, emotional pain. Oh,
no.
Childbirth. I don't love him no more.
Baby, childbirth. Childbirth. I'm a lesbian, so I'm a little bit different. I'm a little bit more aggressive. So that's why we're having this moment.
You're even worse because you're double masculine. You're double masculine. I don't have no issue with you being a lesbian.
Double masculine.
We're both women on the panel. She looks more feminine than me right now. She's got so much going on. What do you mean?
Look, you're both feminine queens.
To be fair, all of my Allen keys are right there. So
I want to share a small video. It shows you how women react to stuff.
Okay, Omar.
Okay.
Omar, it's been a pleasure. But we have a bit
We
of
had to
wine.
talk sometime, Omar. Maybe
Yeah,
Wick will let us.
Yeah, maybe
talk
I'll have
another
a
time.
one-on-one debate between y'all.
Wick, you should put that name so we know who we're talking to. So
Sulfur, it's Sulfur. Her name is Sulfur.
Sulfur.
Right?
Or Max.
mean,
you can call me Maxine.
All right, nice talking to you. But
Omar,
you know,
for now.
These are my
Omar.
To the void.
To the void.
To the void. I'll make the void white. Look, because I feel like
Yeah.
when I
Of
think
course
void,
you
I
would
think of
make it
Apple.
white.
Void.
Of course I
Yeah,
will.
of
Yeah.
course. You take something traditionally black and then make it white. Colonizer, okay? You're colonizing the void. What is going on? I know Stardust, Dan Macy says she has a small soliloquy for us, so let's bring her on.
Oh, I'm so interested.
Oh dear.
I'm
okay.
so interested too. You're live.
Stardust.
Hello.
It's she.
Yo,
Hi.
she's out and about, and
Oh,
this
wow.
is Stardust Uncensored, Unfiltered.
Hello.
Oh,
Where are we going?
We are on the streets.
We're on a journey.
we
Oh,
can't
I
hear you.
can't hear
We
what
can't
you're
hear
saying.
We can't hear you.
We can't hear you.
Cannot hear you.
We can't hear.
1 second. Okay, give her a minute.
Okay.
Give her a minute.
I love her glasses.
Like, they're very becoming on her.
They're very fabulous.
Got the specs appeal.
Quite indeed. Here, I shall also dress up for this moment.
I don't have a. Well, actually,
I shall wear my hat.
I got
Shall
it.
take out my fan.
I got an owl.
Oh,
Okay, so I got an owl.
Okay.
The voice isn't working, Stardust. I don't know why we can't hear you, but we can see you and you're lovely. You're good eye candy. I can say that because I'm friends with them.
Okay.
Just tempting Beckett to come in and yell at me now. No, we got nothing. We got nothing, Stardust. I don't know what to tell you.
It's lighting up.
it's lighting up.
It's lighting up, but we
but we
can't
don't
actually hear you.
I wonder.
There's lighting, but I don't.
It's lighting, but nothing.
Yeah.
For a minute, gang. This is a.
Oh no.
Well, I didn't do it. Hopefully she'll be back. Hopefully she'll fix it.
Maybe she'll come back. We'll
Yeah.
see.
And in the meantime, what's up?
My
Oh,
food shops.
hello. Hold on.
Hi.
You're live. You got a camera for us?
Go on live.
Yes. Does this help? Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
I am here.
Hello.
I think you guys were talking about male loneliness and etc.
Tonight?
It was mentioned. What's up?
Yeah.
We're also talking
So-
about a lot of things, right? But
Yeah. Was it overall the entire subject, or was it like hyper focused on like a subgenre of like male loneliness? I guess. Maybe it can be like a quick call and then
Well,
like I can give my
wanna
perspective a little bit.
So what we're doing today, just to explain, we're just doing call-ins.
Mhm.
So literally whatever you want to talk about for 10, 15 minutes, we'll talk about
Yeah,
it.
sure. Okay. Yeah, because I never did one of your call-ins before, so I just wanted to
First
make
time
sure.
for everything will be
just
gentle, I promise.
Trying to figure out. Yeah. Okay. So, I guess one of the topics is like about male loneliness, right? Or whatever like that. So, from what I know, before I transitioned, I know that in college, at least, I felt pretty lonely as a computer science major. And I know that I was basically going like, oh my God, I felt insecure about, being a virgin. I felt insecure about, a lot of things like not talking to enough women, not talking to whatever, and I felt like whenever like there was a another girl like on like the same side of the street as I was I was scared to be even on the same side of the street, because I was like, oh my god, I'm walking behind her, what if she thinks that I'm like some kind of like creepy predator or something like that, right? So there is this kind of like societal phenomenon, I feel like, that's going on with men, at least when it comes to feeling insecure about themselves. And this isn't just coming from me, right? I hear about this all the time from other men online who are talking about, oh my god, I don't want to feel like I'm being creepy, I don't want to feel like I'm being weird. I remember once in college, on my college Discord server, I met this 𝕵𝖎𝖎𝖙 in the wild, okay? Like completely in the wild, before I started content creation, before everything, right? And at the time I was watching Destiny or whatever, right? And he would call in on New York Eve drunk, and he would be near tears, and he would be saying how lonely he was, and this was the only time he showed his true feelings. And he'll be talking about, oh my god, I wish I wasn't so lonely, I wish I had a girlfriend, I wish I had whatever. And normally in the politics channel, he is a total debate bro, like verbatim Destiny copying like his behaviors and everything. Very cringe. All right, very, very cringe. So but to be fair, he is an extremely good debater.
So,
okay,
so do you think men are lonely because of Destiny?
Yes. Well, no. The thing is, right? Yes, but also no, right? Because I think it's not. It's obviously not specifically of Destiny, but I think there's this kind of culture where, with the rise of the internet, you feel like you're more isolated from others. It's easier to find short ways to cope from like short-term failure. For example, back in the past when you didn't have the internet, when you experienced failure from a girl, you would go out with your buddies to maybe you go out and get like McDonald's, or you get food, or go to a bar or something like that. But now you go to the internet. So when you go to the internet, it's easy to go to these forums and go down an entire spiral of like whatever, but you don't just experience it short term, you experience it for long term. So instead of using it as a short term ways to cope, you use it as a long-term, treatment solution when it's not actually a real treatment. So for example, if a person experiences rejection from a girl and uses Destiny streams as a way to cope, then that person is just going to watch Destiny streams the entire time, because that person just feels like, oh, all the comfort is in Destiny streams. I'm not going to use real life experience whatsoever as a way to practice failure and practice how to talk to women, and this is not only the case with Destiny streams or with streamers and whatever. It's also the case with OnlyFans, with whatever. It's also the case with many kinds of entertainment, Netflix, right? TV and stuff like that, right? So it's a lot of the things, and you can argue this existed when we had cable television like HBO or Star Trek was filming or whatever like that, right? But now it's even worse, right? Because the internet is just so accessible these days. Now here's the second part, right? Is that when I a transition into being a woman, obviously ignore the mid-transition part because it was super awkward, right? So when I started passing to the vast majority of people in public, yeah, I don't even remember the last time I was misgendered in public. So in public, and I was just like doing whatever, right? It's completely different the way people talk to me, the way people speak to me. There's a vast difference between pre-transition and after transition. And yeah, people just treat you differently. It's almost as if if you are looking for attention, you don't really need to find it anymore. You don't really need to try to seek out for it. But at the same time, it feels like you aren't being taken as seriously anymore either. It's really weird. Anyway, it's just that's another topic entirely. Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. I wasn't able to follow that. Fairy Dust or Sulfur, can you help me?
Sorry, I went on a huge rant, but I thought I had limited time, so that's why
you do have
I
limited
just wanted
time.
to give.
I just don't know. I don't know what you were trying to say.
So in terms of food, and correct me if I'm wrong, but food shops has experienced kind of the both sides of the coin in terms of like seeing male loneliness, experiencing some of those differences then when she was living as a woman in her own skin. Finally, she experienced some of the differences of how women are able to get attention, get kind of these communal or social remedies to what men kind of have just as a de facto loneliness. I don't know if that's entirely kind of what you were
pretty
going
much.
for, Chess, but
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Stardust. We can hear you now.
Hey.
Yeah,
we can hear you.
Yes.
Oh, I'm so sorry for the background noise.
That's okay.
Are you having an adventure? What's going on? What is this? What is this place?
Sure.
It looks large and scary.
Don't worry about it. I'm in the pits of hell right now. Anyways, I came here only to talk about you, Whick, and to talk about your human rights. And
What?
I want to say, because that's the title of your stream, and I want to say, while I generally am a strong advocate for human rights, regardless of who the person is, what they believe in, etc., etc. The worst person in the world, I think, deserves human rights. But there's some things that make me question whether you deserve human rights, Whick. So if you don't mind, do you mind if I list out my reasonings?
Air your grievances. Nail them to the church door. Go ahead.
Well, I don't have grievances. I'm just these are reasons why I find the idea of you having human rights very difficult. Not disgusting, just difficult. So for number one, you have very peculiar origins. So for the rest of the people in this call, Whick, unlike the average human being, seems to have emerged from nothing, from a realm of eccentricity. Okay, I've even heard a rumor that he was not born from his mother's womb. He just wasn't. So his background and the fact that he was not born via his mother's womb, which I have no fucking idea how else he was born, but it makes me question the very essence of his existence. I mean, is he just like a figment of my imagination? Am I having a fucking mental break right now?
Wait,
Is he an animal? Is he like is he a rock? I don't know.
I'm a pretty
whatever the case is. I'm sorry?
He's a cryptid. I think he's a cryptid.
Well,
I think you're right.
Look, whatever the case is, that's my reason number one. That his origins alone justify my skepticism
I was
towards his claim to
manifested in
human
your
rights.
opinion, right? So the claim is I was manifested into existence ex nihilo.
All right.
if you will.
All right. My second, thing that makes me question whether you deserve human rights, Whick, is your unusual behavior. So even the most basic understanding of human rights suggests that they're bestowed upon individuals based on their ability to contribute positively to society. However, Whick's behavior presents a stark contrast to this notion. He consistently displays a lack of social awareness and an unparalleled ability to annoy those around him. So these traits clearly disqualify him from the realm of deserving human rights.
Compelling.
Thirdly, number 3, okay, Whick's inability to comprehend logic. Whick, you may think differently, but I'm sorry, you just can't. Okay, a crucial aspect of every person's rights is their ability to reason and comprehend the consequences of their actions. Whick, sadly, seems to possess a mind that operates on a completely different plane.
Well, I do let you on a lot, so there is an argument there that I don't comprehend what I'm doing, but Carry on.
Yes, the consequences of action. Well, Whick's baffling inability to grasp even the most elementary concepts of logic and reason renders him ill-equipped to participate in meaningful interactions, let alone enjoy the privileges associated with human rights. I guess finally, well, not finally. No, there are 2 more points. So
That's a lot of fucking points.
point number 4. Whick's disregard
Women
for
be
personal
concise challenge impossible, but go on.
All right. Personal hygiene is is essential aspect of being human, as it not only contributes to physical well-being, but also reflects a sense of respect for oneself and others. Whick seems to revel in his disregard for this basic tenet. Sorry, Whick, you just do. I can smell you. I can smell your odor through the screen. Okay.
Damn.
And clearly, because I can smell your odor through the screen, you raise serious doubts about whether I consider you eligible for human rights. Okay, finally. Finally.
Yeah, why do you wear
Point
the
number
same
5.
shirt every day?
Point number 5, okay? I'm sorry, I'm almost finished here. Whick's troubling influence, okay? The impact a person has on others can be a significant factor in determining their worthiness of human rights. Whick, your influence tends to be overwhelmingly negative, okay? You have a knack for just pissing off everybody around you. You're simultaneously too left-wing and too right-wing at the same time.
Agreed.
You incite chaos, and you generally make life more complicated for those unfortunate enough to be in your presence. Okay, my life is more complicated because I'm in your presence. All right,
fair enough.
So
it's complicated.
This negative
influence. Go on.
This negative influence, I'm saying, further justifies my skepticism regarding your right to enjoy the privileges of being human.
If I may rebut,
I rest my case.
If I may rebut this briefly, I think this is all major cope because your boyfriend likes to hang out with me more than he likes to hang out. I think that is the cope. I think that the fact that your boyfriend is more likely to come on my stream
You see that ambulance? You see that ambulance, Whick? You see that ambulance? That ambulance is going to your place, okay? They're going to your place. Because I'm going to, I might not be able to control myself tonight, Whick.
Many such cases. Women come to my house and they just can't control them themselves.
The way that you make my life complicated.
It's not a gender issue either. When Beckett came to my house, he just couldn't control himself either. Many such cases. I could see why you're dating him because he had a similar problem. He came over to my house, not able to control himself at all. He kept saying, "Oh, we shouldn't do this. Wick, this is wrong. Wick, I'm in love with Stardust. Wick, all these things." But he just couldn't control himself. It was weird. It was wild.
Look, he's a filthy slut. Okay, he is a filthy slut, and I am not surprised. But Wick, my complications, my life being complicated by your presence, by being in your presence, has nothing to do with Beckett. Okay, it was just as soon as I met you, Wick, my entire life was complicated. Okay,
your life
so
got
I don't know what to
turned
say.
Upside down, right?
Anyways, can we get a hand vote for people in the call who think that I've made a succinct argument, not succinct, but a good argument for Wick's denial of human rights?
Well, I'm now a misogynist, but yeah, sure, let's deny Wick's human rights.
He's a cryptid. Cryptids can't have human rights.
You know what, Stardust? I'm not going to do that. You want to know why? Because Wick is a dog, and it's adorable, and it needs to eat. And if I deny him human rights, that poor man will not get dog food, and that poor dog will die.
Wait, he's a dog. Can I eat him?
Here's the compromise.
Because I'm Chinese?
I have a compromise for you.
Back and forth to save Wick's dog from starvation.
I have a compromise for you.
Okay.
Okay. We take Wick's human rights away, and we give his dog all the human rights that was had.
Based. I agree. I am on board. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Well, you know what? You know what I think?
Okay. Well, thank you for having.
Bye. To the void.
To the void.
Okay. So first of all, this is my dog that is the most beautiful dog in the world. I will brook no disagreement on this. I'm usually pretty pro free speech, but I will brook no disagreement here. Tinkerbell is the best in the world. Literally the best in the world. And if you so much as criticize or threaten my dog, there will be consequence. There will be
I
consequence.
probably shouldn't have said what I said,
Tinkerbell
but
is
I didn't know you had a
Oh,
dog.
Tinkerbell.
I just
is the best.
I just sorry about that. My internet went out, but thank you for having me.
It didn't go out. I kicked it.
I will be back at streaming in about like 5 days.
Okay.
So,
Well, once
I'll
you're
see you
back,
guys.
we'll get you on panels again because we've been missing you on
Yep.
panels. Like we need someone
Yeah.
for people to dunk on, and so it would be nice to have.
Oh, is that what that is, Wick? Really? It's not the moderator that we're all dunking on, is it?
I'll see you later, Star.
Bye, Star.
Bye.
To the void. Times 2.
What the fuck? What was that?
This is like my favorite moment ever. I love the itemized like list. Like, no, you know what? I hope because I know you're doing your dog pile tomorrow, Wick. But I hope that Sunday has...
It's not actually going to be a full dog pile. Actually, I have procured Whick stands. I have procured advocates, right? Who will make my case. I will be a defendant on trial, and a defendant has counsel.
Oh my god!
Right?
Oh, I
Fairy
love
Queen.
that.
Fairy Queen will come and be my Atticus Finch. Okay? Right?
Yeah.
She will be
I'm so
my Johnny
excited.
Cochran. Okay?
I'm so excited for that.
She and T.F. Young will be co-counsels, right? And will
Nice.
defend me against the ravages and wiles of those who stand against the dictatorship. Yes.
I love it. Well, I just hope that Sunday considers his day in court then, or a dog pile, whatever, you know.
Wait, what do you have tomorrow?
Tomorrow is Whick versus the world.
The world.
What? Like, who's the world?
Josiah,
people
Portland
who-
is burning, Daedalus Media.
People who have had issues with Wick.
Specifically,
Who the fuck has issues with you?
a lot of people have
Well.
issues with my takes. A lot.
Like who?
I just
Who
named
ever
3.
harm a poor old man?
I'm not that old, first of all. But
You are.
Diogenesis, welcome back.
I feel like if I were to guess your age, you would be like 62 or something.
Exactly. Exactly how old I am.
Maybe late 50s.
Maybe late. Dio.
Okay. Well, that's about it. For my call-in. So.
Oh, okay.
Food stamps. Always a pleasure.
Yep.
Bye for chops.
Good chops.
Bye bye.
To the void.
To the void. To the void.
Oh my god, and it's almost 10 p.m. How long did we go? Wait, we started at...
We'll do this last caller.
Yeah.
Who apparently
even
had
realize-
internet issues before, but yeah, we'll see. Are you if you're talking, we can't hear you. We could hear you earlier. Nothing's changed.
Shame. They came out okay. It's really... I think my light is just too bright. I think my light is just
Let's see.
aggressively...
All right.
Oh, I like them. I like them. They have kind of like a
Yeah.
lavender, very light lavender look.
Yeah.
Very nice.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
Mhm.
It's good.
It's good.
It's
it's
good.
perfect. It's good.
Gang, I guess while we wait for this person to hopefully fix their issues, I'll just kind of give the kind of closing thoughts. 1, thank you, all of you, for attending today. It was kind of a thrown together thing, last minute type of deal.
Mic check.
Oh, hey, we can hear you. What you got for us?
I was saying that listening to this whole conversation for the past couple of days, I do feel like it's a little detrimental for a man to open up to a woman, especially like in such a public setting. Like I do believe in this thing called sacredness and relationships, and I do feel like there are bad actors and people who will get our genuine experiences and concerns and like insecurities, and then use that to their advantage to manipulate and control us in situations. And I just feel like it's hard. It's hard trying to open up to somebody when
Do you
literally
think
they
that
just use
men
everything.
have it
Okay,
harder?
you say.
I need to cut in here, okay? Listen, my dude, you literally said in a VC to me before you hopped into this call that women ruin rational conversation with social bullshit.
No,
That's what you said. That is a
no.
direct
See, you misquoted
quote
me.
about what
You
said
misheard.
earlier.
What did you
You
say
misheard
if
me.
not
Not
that?
You
misheard
misheard.
me. There were like 5 other people in that call.
I
What did
said
you
that.
say if not that?
And then you proceeded to
Can I
give
speak for
more
myself,
examples and
please?
say more. No, you can't, because you've already said enough. It's my turn, okay? You said a lot of
Okay.
sexist things in that call, okay? And every single time anybody would
Lies.
interrogate you about it or ask you about it, you would continue to pile more and more and more anecdotal experiences. There was no data, there was no evidence, there was no study. All of this is examples of experiences that you have had before in the past to justify you saying
Yeah.
things like, and I quote, women in this society are allowed to be too slutty, too hoary, and all of these horrible things. And you can't say things like that and then expect me to not respond to them and to expect me to not have a response to that. So no, I'm not going to sit here quietly as you genuinely open up to excuse you all of this, I'm sorry, incredibly sexist bullshit, okay? That is blatantly sexist.
I will
You
say,
understand that, right?
I will say,
like,
I'm intrigued. Tell me more about the sexism.
You shit stir.
I literally said that, yeah, this society allows women to be more sexualized and promiscuous. When we're literally, when you were like quoting me, I was like, okay, wait, if you're gonna quote me, then make sure you say these specific words, because yeah, whorish, slutty, and sexually promiscuous. Those were the 3 things I
Wow.
said, and
So
I
you
think that's
became
happening. I think
really
the society does push this kind of a culture war. It's a culture war, literally. If
what do you think men's
what
role in that is?
mm-hmm.
What do you think men's role in that is?
men's role?
Yeah. In the sexualization, in the objectification, in the hiring of
I
prostitutes, in
think
the
men
paying
are
for
manipulating other men, and
okay.
I'm listening. Go on. I'm listening. If you're talking, we can't hear you. You say men are manipulating other men.
We've lost you audio-wise.
Well, okay. In the meantime, you can instead donate money to a GoFundMe where we buy him a plane ticket to Saudi Arabia, where you can find a culture that is more fitting.
Give him money. Give me money. What are you talking? No, we're not gonna.
Okay, can you?
Yes. Okay, now we
hear me
can
now?
hear you. What's up?
You're back.
Hello, mic check. My fucking
You're
internet's
back.
so shitty.
I bet it's women's fault too, right?
I don't know what to say. My mic's messed up. I'm gonna have to go.
Okay, well we can hear
Okay.
you now, but fair enough.
We'll talk about it again another time.
Yeah,
How about
yeah.
that? I'll join VC.
Get a better connection. I'd love to have you on. You, what's up?
What's up, buddy? How you doing?
You got a camera for us today?
Yes, sir. One moment. Sorry, I look like a mess. Just came back from the gym.
Oh yeah, just coming back from the gym. Yeah, it's okay, right? Like just got done.
Yeah, man. It's whatever. Sorry, just touching.
Gym, you got a couch the size of Manhattan. What's going on?
Anyways, so real quick, I just want to hop in here. if I'm not mistaken, Seven told me somebody said, and I might have misquoted, that they wouldn't let their daughter go to a school that has all male teachers.
That's a fairy queen right there.
Yeah, why is that, Fairy Queen?
I would feel it depends. So the very specific question was, we were talking about elementary schools. We were talking about elementary schools, like kids for like very small children, right? I think
Like
that's an
before
important
grade
thing.
2.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's an important thing to clarify. And for me, I would feel uncomfortable doing that, and it might be sexist for me to feel this way. I feel that probably if I were to be a mom and if I were to have kids, that those kids would be safer with all women teachers as opposed to all male teachers, statistically speaking. It doesn't mean there can't be terrible female teachers. It doesn't mean there can't be great male elementary school teachers. But if we're talking about a huge pool of people to drop my kids off to, I would prefer that to be largely comprised of women.
Okay, so you're more worried. So, I mean, statistically speaking, you're saying that it'll be more likely that a all-male school would cause more harm to the kids than an all-female school in an elementary setting, specifically?
Yes, that's what I
Okay.
would say.
I guess the next question I would have is like, how would you feel about the reverse? Because I think I would agree with your position. If it was based off an idea of, since they're elementary schoolers, they should probably have a good representation of both genders, or especially daughters probably want to have some good female role models. But if it's on the idea, the precedent that the teachers that are going to be employed at these schools are going to be dangerous, I think that's more akin to a problem with the school systems hiring teachers without doing background checks, rather than the case being that these schools are hiring teachers and men are going to be more likely to be abusive. Because I can also take it into a different context, and I can say that like mothers are more likely to kill their children than a father is, and that's statistically true as well. But I wouldn't really apply that to an elementary school, and I wouldn't even apply that to a position to hold.
Response to that would be like, the harm that I'm talking about is not merely sexual abuse, although that is an aspect of it.
No, I
And
know.
this is, yeah, this, and again, I don't have data at my fingertips. Like, everything I'm telling you is just based off of an impression and experience that I've. So what I'm saying may be entirely unjustified, but based off of what I've seen, the majority of men that I've seen that have worked with small children, especially like lower, like in elementary grades, they tend to be less patient. They tend to yell more. They tend to not do as well, or to fit into the role of taking care of large masses of small children, as well as women, generally speaking, from what I've seen. So the concern isn't even so much that like you might accidentally hire a pedophile or somebody that's going to sexually abuse the kids. If the other concern could be that you're going to hire somebody that's more likely to snap and lose their temper and yell, which is very likely. Like, I don't know if you've worked in an elementary school. Like I have. I've worked as a substitute teacher, and it's complete chaos in most of these elementary school classrooms. And most of the men that I've spoken to, even those that work in education, most of them don't want to be kindergarten teachers. They don't want to work as first grade or second grade teachers. And I don't even think it's merely because of socialization or social stigma. I also think it's frankly because most of them just don't want to be surrounded with small kids. So why make a ton of people do a job that they do not want to do?
Sure, I'm totally fine with that. I'd probably say that for a lot of different fields where probably we have the case that like women and men, just maybe based off biology for all we know, diverge in what they want to do, right? It's probably going to always be the case that men are going to be more likely to do blue collar work, that more men are going to be garbage men, more men are going to be construction workers. That's just how it's going to end up. It's probably the same the case that women are gonna go more towards smaller children. Even my female friends now, they're like in their 20s, 22s. They're going in and they're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be a substitute teacher while I'm like figuring out what I want to do for school. And they're totally fine with being around kids. I personally, I love being around kids, but I am like an anomaly in that sense. But I guess my contention is, maybe I'm mistaken. Didn't you say earlier that it had to do with danger? If I'm
Yes. Yes.
So
It
if you said it had to do with danger, then why are you saying it's more of a reference of a idea that it'd just be better if like the women are more are teaching in these settings? That's my contention. Is like the danger, because the aspect of that is that like I just don't know if there's that, because you said you don't have data at your fingertips, so that's fine, but I don't know if it's that big of a deal to make the type of prescription that you're making, because there's a lot of prescriptions you can make in that sense, but I don't know if danger is the first thing you want to go to in regards to that.
So again, and this is based off of experiences so again, no data at fingertips. People can check me, okay? Yes, it's true. There are lots of teachers that can pass background checks, and there are lots of teachers that don't. There are also a lot of teachers that pass background checks who do wind up sexually abusing kids, okay? That's just, I mean, like that has happened that's happened in schools that I've worked at before, where literally like one of the teachers that I was supposed to replace temporarily, like as his long-term sub, was arrested like for child molestation of a teenage girl. So so yes, it is true that background checks can exist, and yes, those filtration systems do exist, but they are not as effective. A, they are not as effective as you might think, and B, even when they are effective, even when it is effective that somebody has not offended before, personally speaking, it's one thing if we're talking about a singular teacher, right? Like if we're talking about like a singular guy who's a really good guy, he has got a long history, he's really good with kids, and he's got if all of those things are true. It's another thing if we're talking about 20 different male teachers, right, that I'm dropping off my child at, right? Because now the probability of like harm occurring to my child has spiked through the roof, right? Now I'm not just dealing with one like Mr. Smith or Mr. Rogers. Now I'm dealing with like 20 or 30 of them. And the odds are, generally speaking, that if somebody is going to be abusive to kids, generally, statistically speaking, that person is more likely to be a man as opposed to a woman.
So when regards to like sexual abuse, that's like your concern, right?
It's in part my concern, but it's not the only concern.
Is
but
it
since
the majority? Is it? Well, I just want to know what like your primary concern is. If it's like an culmination of things and you can't really put a percentage to it, that's fine. I just like my issue with that is I just don't know how much we can take all this and put it together, right? Because if you want to say that there is probably a concern about like sexual abuse and it tends to be men that do it to children, I don't think I would disagree with that at all. But then I guess my retort to that would be that like if we're talking about like physical abuse, like women, especially mothers, are more likely to kill their children, right? So I mean, I could make that case as well. And on top of that, I mean, it seems to be across the board when it comes to like abuse, especially from adults to children. While men might be more physically abusive, women are going to be more emotionally abusive. It's just so hard to make a prescription off this. That's why I would want to know like what your because if that's why I asked the opposite, like the reverse. Would you be okay with sending your son to like an all-female school, right? And if not, you would. So you wouldn't be concerned about like male role models, about the idea of having a low in self-esteem, coming out of there without any type of like interactions with male adults on a daily basis. That wouldn't be like a cause for concern.
So my answer to you is that yes, I would want my son to have male role models, but in my opinion, the people who should act as male role models, especially at that age, it should be your dad or it should be your coach. It should not necessarily be your teacher. Your teacher's job primarily is not just to be a role model. It's not to embody what masculinity is or what femininity is. That's not the role of the teacher. The role of the teacher is to teach you literally what the subject material is. It's to help you to grow within your education. It's not to embody social cultural values. That's supposed to come from your parents, right? So as a mom, I want the kind of man that I want my son to be. I don't necessarily know that I want the teacher that I send my son to school to teach my son that. I want my husband to teach my son how to be a man and to be his male role model, right? I want to be selective with who I want those types of cultural messages to be passed down to, right? I don't think it's the government's job to teach my son how to be a man. I think it's our job as parents to teach my son how to be a man. And I'm uncomfortable with offloading that responsibility onto the state.
Well, it's not necessarily offloading it. It's when we have children, they typically are going to go through their 8 hours a day at school, right? And when they do that, they're going to look towards different types of people. They're going to look at their female teachers, their male teachers. They're going to relate to them in different types of ways, right? I think that it's totally normal. And you said you're in academia or you've been a substitute teacher. Am I mistaken?
My career has been in a lot of different fields, but yes, I've worked with kids, I've worked as a GED teacher, I've worked with college students, and I've worked with small children as a camp counselor and as an elementary school substitute teacher.
Yeah, so I've done a little bit too where during my college years, I was going to like just small like schools near my campus in the city. And a lot of them, we would do things like learn to code and we teach like the young kids how to code, basic stuff like that. And it was very helpful for them. That's why like a lot of these places have like the Big Brother program, the Big Sister program, where kids are just going to naturally kind of make differentiates about like who is male, who is female, and they're going to apply themselves to that, right? Even if it's not their job to, it's just going to naturally occur, right? I think it's totally normal for a student to be like, oh yeah, I want to be like Mr. Parker when I grow up, right? Because Mr. Parker is really chill, he's really cool, everybody likes him, he's really smart, he's really understanding, right? And that's totally, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and I think that's healthy. It's really, I think it's a big task to have your children only grow up with like one or two masculine or feminine figures in your life, because there's not that much exposure there. And I think that's what happens with like a lot of these red pillars is they grow up with a lot of times toxic parents, right? And they emulate that in the worst way possible. Like for example, a lot of these red pillars end up being, they're usually Arab, like I'm Arab, and their mothers are typically like stay-at-home wives that only listen to their husbands, and their husbands are like very traumatized men that are from like war-torn countries that are like shipped out but when they're like 13. Like my father, he was abandoned at like 13 in Venezuela, and then he went to Lebanon, then he went to Dearborn, Michigan, and he's like a traumatized dude. And I love him to death, but I would have never, I don't want to be like him. I don't want to be like his type of masculinity.
Right.
And I related to everybody else around me, and my older brothers relate to everybody else around them. I just don't think it's, I don't think it's going to occur that like we're only going to be able to get this from like our parents or like one or two select people in our lives. I think
Okay,
it's
just a moment. Just a moment. I want to give a chance for the other people in here to have an opinion. I'm curious what Sulfur thinks, and I want to hear what Seven thinks as well. And Seven, if you have a camera and you want to cam up, that'd be helpful. You don't have to.
I don't today, but I will next time.
Alright.
I just think it's incredibly toxic to say that the only space for male role models is things like sports coaching. Like what you're doing is putting men in a position where the only role models in their lives are in masculine spaces, not people who are responsible on a day-to-day basis for them, not people who are teaching them things, not people that, I mean, you say that the only job is to teach the curriculum, but that isn't true. Like it's just true that students go to their teachers with personal concerns all of the time for emotional support too. And men are more likely to do that with a male figure. Like I know that I was definitely more emotionally connected with my female teachers, and they were able to nurture me and my education based on that connection.
Yeah, so the context as well, I don't know if you guys caught it. It was Omar kind of, I feel like Omar put us all on this weird conversation because in Omar's world, he wants split schools and so on. And so the discussion was specifically in this Omar's world scenario. So like maybe like don't shoot Fairy Queen on this. It was,
Well,
these comments.
Fairy Queen's arguing, I think
Yeah.
coherently here. I'm curious to why she thinks how she does, and I'm curious to hear it.
So a couple of things. So you mentioned some personal experiences with your dad and with your brothers, and I'll mention those of mine as well, why I think the way that I do. And this is not really evidence, but these are some things that I have heard. So if you think back to like England, especially like when there really were all boys schools, especially all boy preparatory schools, three writers who I greatly admired are Christopher Hitchens, C.S. Lewis, and George Orwell. Every single one of those authors went to an all-male school, and not only did they go to an all-male school, an all-boys school, but they went to an all-boys school that was extremely expensive for them to go. They were able to go on to Oxford, they were able to go on to Cambridge, specifically because they were able to go to those preparatory schools. And each and every single one of them talked about how the sexual abuse was rampant within those schools, how there were men, adult teachers, who sexually abused those boys. The fact that three of our greatest writers in three different schools were able to talk about this happening like decades before gives me some concern, especially with today. You've also mentioned specifically all boys and all men's institutions as being beneficial for helping men learning how to connect with a male role model. You've mentioned, for instance, like worrying about the fact that they have so many Karens to lift up to. That's where all of these red pillars are coming from. I mean, I know men who have come from all male schools and who have gone to all male fraternities, who go to all male institutions. Those men, just generally speaking, are not the feminists, okay? They do not go into all male institutions and learn how to treat women better. They do not practice how to treat women better. They don't generally go into those institutions, even with good male role models, and then exit those institutions even if they are financially and educationally successful, it's not my opinion that they leave that viewing women in an equitable light. That has not been what I've actually
I need to interrupt. When did I?
problem.
Wait.
So I'm curious. So when you say that all male institutions are good for small boys to go to because it might help them unlearn some of these behaviors, I just don't. That hasn't happened before in the past with these all male institutions. It doesn't seem to be happening right now in the present with all male fraternities and with all male high schools. So I'm not really sure why we would think that this would be the solution for red pillars of the future today. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
My question. Wait, were you talking to me or Seven?
You specifically.
When did I ever say that we should do all male institutions? And when did I ever say that we're good?
So again, this goes back to the context of what we were talking about with Omar and
wait, I don't
yeah,
care.
but he's not here. We've moved on now.
Yeah, I never. When did I say this?
Well, I apologize. My assumption was that you came on to here to defend Omar's position. So
Why would I don't know who Omar is. I don't know who this person. You think I'm some Arab? I'm gonna come defend some Omar, dude? Fuck that guy. That guy sounds stupid.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that because the take that you're responding to is the take that we and Omar were discussing before.
No, the take I'm responding to is directly like your take, where you said you wouldn't want your daughter going to a school with like all male teachers, which I even said verbatim. I don't even think I disagree with that for a lot of contexts. I just don't know how much I like your premise for that. Right, so it was I don't know, maybe I don't know why you went on that spiel about me like wanting like all male space, because I don't think all male or all female anything is good. I think segregating the genders is really bad in most contexts besides necessity ones, like private spaces that they would need, right? So I'm not quite sure where to go with that, because I'm not trying to insult you. You went on for a while for a premise that, or for a position I don't hold at all.
And that's the problem is, you say that you're not for these all-male institutions, but what you're doing is discouraging men from entering co-ed institutions as well. You're painting them as naturally less good at, less fit for these roles. And the only people who probably are willing to withstand that are maybe a few very passionate teachers, but also probably the people who have bad intentions, who are drawn to that for bad reasons. If men feel like they're demonized and unwelcome and people don't trust them with their children, why would they go into these roles? And the only way that they have to then pursue male role models in their lives is to go to all male institutions or these Big Brother programs, or go to their coach who, again, you're talking about the types of people who are drawn to different things. Like, are the people who coach necessarily the kind of people that you want being a male role model in your child's life?
So $2
or the
from
only
Testicle,
male role model?
Yeah, $2 from Testicle Johnson to say based Omar take as usual, segregation works. Thanks, Testicle. Thank you for your money.
Thank you, Testy.
Yeah, but I guess my question, right? Like, so we just got done talking to Dionysus. I forget his name. Diogenesis. You know the guy that came in and you yelled at him for just making these kind of sexist comments without any data to back them up. And then again, we have you, right? And not to put you on the spot too much, but saying, I think it would be dangerous to send my daughter or my son to an all-male institution because I would worry about them being hurt physically. And then you also say that I don't really have data for this. It's just my vibes, feels, intuition, etc. Why are these different? Like, why are we castigating Diogenesis, and why are we doing this?
The difference is the context of the conversation. Okay. So Diogenesis, whatever his name was, hopped into the VC and hopped into the call to declare this to the masses. Omar hopped into the call to ask us a question, and I gave the response that I was best prepared to answer at the time, which is the difference, right? So I'm not out here standing this, like writing my manifesto, trying to argue this, but you asked me an honest question. I'm giving you the best answer I can at the time. That's the difference.
This would be something you'd move on then pretty easily, or not pretty easily, but something you'd move on if you got like some sort of different evidence or a different argument.
Correct. Yes. So if I had sufficient evidence to move on it, then I would. But without that evidence, I'm forced to base it off of, again, vibes, based off of experience.
Sure. I don't think I necessarily agree with the premise. I think I can agree with the position depending on how you go about it. My only concern is I think that like when we're talking about male loneliness, and while the context matters, I think it really does speak magnitudes that like we're talking about male loneliness, and one of the big issues with like male loneliness is this idea that like men are predators and men are dangerous, et cetera, et cetera. And then when somebody brings up this conversation, this question, your first response is like a segregatory education in elementary school because of this danger that you perceive, right? Because like if we listen to like because I know one male teacher that like he feels he's glad he got out of elementary and he started going and teaching high school. He said that like it just I feel isolated, and that like he feels like a danger, and parents give him looks, and people treat him worse, and people don't even let him sit like alone in a room with one child at a time, right? And these are like
Well,
in
he
weird
shouldn't be doing that.
What?
Yeah, teachers shouldn't be sitting in a room. Doesn't irrespective of the gender. Teachers should not be
Right.
sitting.
That's
with
crazy.
one
If
child.
a student needs
class,
extra help after
if a
class,
student goes in for extra help or is trying to talk to them afterwards, they shouldn't be alone in the room with them. No teacher.
Most school boards say that that's not allowed. That there has to be someone else, or it has to be not closed door. Like
This is recent, by the way. Like when I was going through the school system, this was not a rule.
Yeah.
I
but
never
it is a
had
recent
this.
thing.
I never had this.
And same. Like neither did I. But
I
that
work in
is
the
like
school
new
system, and I
policy.
can confirm what Sulfur is saying is
Yeah.
true. Okay,
Yeah.
so when you go, you're not supposed to be one-on-one alone with the student. You're supposed to have an open door. You're supposed at the bare minimum, so that other teachers can come in.
Of course they'll have an open door. They're not gonna close the door and like lock it and be like, all right, here, listen here, buddy. Okay, they're not gonna do that shit like off a fucking mob movie. But I'm saying that like even when he's like alone in a room with them, like he's just teaching them something, like he'll have other teachers come by and just like peer over, right, and then walk away.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that shit's shitty, and he's gonna want to move out of those areas too. And whilst you can say that like it's probably the case that they want to all do that, you got to ask why. And it's just ironic that we're on a panel about like this idea that men are like dangerous predators and shit like that, or male loneliness, and our prescription, our premise, sorry, not prescription, our premise is that like they're dangerous.
I hate to be cruel about this, but statistically speaking, if somebody is going to be a predator, if somebody is going to be sexually abusive or physically abusive, that person statistically is going to be a man, right?
Okay,
and
sure.
then
you are arguing for segregation.
Because of that, when I'm making personal decisions with my dating life and with my children, while I certainly don't want to stigmatize anyone and to make anybody feel bad, if we're talking about myself and people who I care about, I can't value you feeling as though I'm feeling stigmatized over my and my children's safety. That's a gamble I'm willing to make, okay?
Sure,
And
okay.
I'm sorry that it hurts your feelings, but the fact of the
No,
matter
it
is
doesn't hurt my feelings.
that's the worlds that we live in.
And then I have a question for you. Wait,
Seven. Go ahead, Seven.
Go ahead, Seven. My bad.
We've established that we're basically going on vibes, right? Not data. And he's telling you a story about a well-meaning, non-offending teacher who's been chased out of a position because of feeling stigmatized. So like whether you can justify that stigmatization or not, I think that we should acknowledge the consequences of that. And again, who is going to like withstand that stigma and want to stay in that role anyway? It's probably people with bad intentions.
What I'm telling you is that, like, the consequences of stigmatization, if it's the choice between that and the choice between protecting my children and myself, I'm going to have to go with stigmatization. That's
No, just real quick, if I may interrogate this a moment. Would you feel the same way if the statistics showed that black teachers were more likely to be predators?
That's where I was going.
If the statistics
Yeah,
showed
if the
that
statistics showed that it, I don't know if they do. I'm not sure. This is a hypothetical. I want to be clear, gang. Please don't cancel me for this, but I'm just interrogating this position.
Whick canceled.
Don't cancel me
stop
again.
rambling.
Right?
Let her answer.
Okay.
Come on.
Yeah, but the question is, if statistics showed that black teachers, right, were much more statistically significantly more predatory, would you feel justified not gambling with you or your child or your family's safety because, again, statistically, they're more likely to be predators? Would you have the same energy?
as cruel as it is to say it, I mean, if that statistic exists, which it does not exist, and right, but if it existed, then yes, I would make that gamble, even though people would call me racist for it, because my primary concern is my kids' safety and my own safety. So the answer, I'm sorry if that sounds racist, and I'm sure somebody's going to clip that and I will be canceled later for it. But yes, I'm going based off of what is statistically more likely to be safe for me and my family.
But then, based on statistics we do have, we should all avoid black men. Do you not think that's incredibly racist and detrimental to society?
Well, I would say, again, like it would depend on why specifically, right? So we know
Wait,
that
why does it matter why now? We didn't care about why when it was men. Now it's black men, and we're asking why.
Exactly. And I was offering you a theory on why, and you say you don't care. So,
well, I would say that, I mean, listen, I just don't want to put my kids in like in an unsafe situation. So that's just the way it is. And as far as like what, and your question is, I'm sorry, could you repeat the question again?
Yeah, sure. If we have data that shows black men are more violent in general, more likely to be predators.
I think it would have to be in a school setting, though, right?
in a
Like,
school setting.
I don't know why we're kind of like choosing this specific example.
Well, the analogy pulls over anywhere. If we're worried about danger,
Yeah.
we should be worried about danger everywhere, right? That's why and she said it herself.
Sure,
She took it
in
out. She took it out of the equation. No, she took it out of the equation. She said, even in my dating life, right? So we're not even talking about school anymore. We're talking about general danger and men being more dangerous, right? So if we can bring it back to school, but just to be clear, the analogy is 1-to-1 off of the school, and even if it isn't, we pull it off of there, right?
Okay,
it's where the
pulled off.
logic naturally leads.
Well, it's a bit different, but no. If it's
Well, what's the
pulled
difference,
off, then
Sulfur?
it's
Out of
pulled off.
curiosity.
The difference between dating and whether or not black men are more violent has very little to do with whether or not black male teachers are going to disproportionately represent some greater harm, right? The reality still is a non-biological man in a child's life increases the likelihood of sexual abuse by something like 200%. It's not insignificant. So the reality is it's just kind of much more along those lines. But yeah, no, sorry, the analogy wasn't 1-to-1, but if it's pulled off, it's pulled off. Y'all do what you want. I'm here doing my nails, so.
But then again, if we're applying that standard, should only women raise children?
Well,
There
actually,
are
no.
lots of places in the world where
Real
that
quick,
is.
no. By the way, Steph, that's wrong. If we're applying that standard, women shouldn't raise children because single mothers end up raising children that commit more crime. Single mothers end up raising women that, single mothers end up killing the children more. Single
No, but
mothers
in
end up
cultures where women are responsible for raising kids, right?
well,
Not that,
if we're what she said, except did you not say like should we just let women raise kids? If not mistaken, or is that wrong?
Well, if we're taking the standard of who's likely to sexually abuse children and applying it, you said any man, any cis man,
non-biological man, with no biological relationship with a child.
No
Wait,
biological.
I thought you were saying something different. So let me get clarity because
No,
I thought you were saying trans men, basically, non-biological men.
I'm talking
Yeah.
about like male
Non-biological.
coach, like
Men
so,
who are
male
not
coaches,
biologically
teachers.
related to the child.
She's saying
That's much different
men-
than non-biological. Okay, wow. I thought, and I was like, okay, if this is what she wants to go with, fair.
No,
But
no.
okay.
I mean,
But
I
then
guess
there's nothing to be
statistics.
done and nothing to offer for boys who grow up without a dad, which is a lot of boys.
Yeah, it sucks. Yes. Yeah. There are huge
be
dangers
fair-
in dating as a single mom with children. Yeah. That's
Well, to be-
statistics. I don't know what to
Sure, I guess that's the case, but I guess if we want to take it off the fact, if we want to talk about dating now, if we're gonna get off the school thing, I'm a little confused. I'm a little confused because minority men tend to commit more physical and sexual abuse too. Wouldn't it be good to openly advocate for women to stop or like have the prescription to stop dating minority men if that's the case?
there are rad femmes who make exactly that point, and I think they're crazy and racist.
But why?
Why?
It's like Fairy Queen said it herself. Like it'd be good to protect the children in her sense and in her dating life, right? And maybe she wants to
Yeah.
rephrase that. I don't want to like straw man and go on a tangent about like the position. But I just it's a little odd that like when we start implementing certain other aspects like men, or I start bringing up how like women are more likely to commit child mortality. It's like we get all these
infanticide is the word you're looking for. Yeah.
we get all these delimiters. Like, okay, let's ask why.
Part of postpartum.
Well, I guess I'll say it. Oh, I'm not racist, but I'm gonna say this, right? Like it's kind of
Whereas the standard we're setting here is that it's okay to stigmatize someone for the safety of your children. So by that logic, yeah.
Well, I want to give space for Fairy Queen here, because I don't want you to feel like dogpiled. I didn't mean to turn this into like a dogpile for real, but I am curious what your thoughts are.
I mean, I've already stated like what I've said. Like to me, like safety within my dating life and safety within for my children is the primary thing. The reason why I've mentioned this before and I've stated this multiple times. Like if we're talking about like an individual person that like is a really good guy and would be really great as an elementary school teacher, I don't have a problem with that person like being an elementary school teacher, right? And I date men, right? So obviously, like that's just part of life, right? You're going to encounter risk no matter where you go, right? Like, so I accept that, right? And obviously, you don't have to deny risk in every part of your life, right? The reason why the way that you get out of the racism trap is you just say you treat people as individuals, right? You see what they're individually like, whether or not they would be individually good as dating partners, whether or not they would be individually good as potential teachers. And you don't treat people as wide swaths of a data trend, right? So like that's the key thing. And what I am saying very specifically, because I'm not against there being more elementary school male teachers, and obviously I'm not against dating men. But what I'm saying is the very specific example that was given was, should I send my child to an all-male school where there are only male teachers, right? That's the example that was given. That's why I keep bringing up the Omar person over and over again, because that's the scenario and the context that was given for the question.
Okay. I mean, I think I don't want to keep like giving you an analogy after analogy. I have another one, but it just feels like mean at this point. Because I know this isn't like a position that you'd fucking die on or anything like that. And I know it's not like a super malicious one. It's probably if I'm guessing, I didn't see this Omar guy. I'm guessing he came in and said like, something like really. I'm guessing he came in and said
Omar
something...
is special. Okay.
Yeah,
Omar is our Arab nationalist friend.
Yeah,
so.
he came in and probably said something very like strong, and you got to make a strong like statement back, right? I'm guessing is what happened.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I like we can run analogy after analogy, and I mean we can make somebody look racist, sexist, transphobic, etc. I can say how trans women are more likely to commit like sex crimes than cis women, right? I can go on about child mortality. I can bring in so many ifs and ands. I think that like biting those bullets really hard. I think we're accustomed to kind of shit on guys, and guys kind of have to take it. And I think that like there's really not a way to move in this conversation, unfortunately, at this point.
Okay, no, that's fine. Thanks for calling in, gang. Did you have anything specifically, Seven, that you wanted to talk about before we let you guys go?
I guess I just really disagree with this rhetoric, and I think it does a lot of harm. And that's my main concern. Like, if we're talking about treating people as individuals and not based on their traits or the statistics associated with them, then I think we have to take seriously like individual teachers feeling stigmatized and being chased out of these roles and the consequences of that. And one thing that this rhetoric does is make people feel stigmatized and afraid and paranoid being around children. I think that's really destructive.
Thank you both for calling in, and I would love to see you on my shows. I will let you go.
No
Bye.
The void.
To the void.
You guys got time for 2 more, Origin and that one guy, or are we done?
Yeah, I got time for Origin.
Okay.
And Fairy, you tell me.
No, it's fine. We can do one more.
Just doing a check-in. Okay.
I feel like Origin's about to
Origin, what's up?
Ask you.
Man, Whick, what's wrong with your freaking Discord setup? Everyone who comes in has a problem speaking for like everybody does.
You seem to be fine.
Yeah, well, I'm good, but a lot of people weren't for some reason.
I don't know what to tell you. I'm not a tech
I would
guy.
say it's on your end, buddy, because I don't think having like many people coming in and their mic's not working at the same time seems like it might be on your end.
Might be.
I don't know.
It might be. There might be a
weird.
setting that I don't know. I'm not a tech guy. That is more than possible that there is a setting that I haven't done yet, that I haven't a button that I either clicked and I shouldn't have, or haven't clicked and I should have. I don't know. Is that fair? What you got for us today?
I just
Also,
want to
thank
say,
you for the
Wick,
$5. Bring me in, you scammer. Okay, well, here you are.
you are a scammer.
How am I a scammer?
I'm just messing with you. But anyway,
Okay.
I hope you're ready for when I take you to task next week.
Next week,
'cause that's-
right?
Heck
Next
yeah.
week, Thursday.
Is that
6?
when you've? Is that when you have finally booked
Yes.
time to talk?
Yes.
Oh, I've been hearing about this for months. I'm so excited.
Yeah, this time it was Wick's fault that we're not talking this week.
Entirely mine.
He was like, "We should talk on what was it, Wednesday initially?" But
Yeah,
then
today.
you're like, "Actually, we'll do it Thursday."
Well, what is that? What you got for us? What else? What else you got?
I thought you were gonna. I thought you were gonna ambush him with it tonight. That's what
Nah,
that
I'm
was.
not gonna do it tonight,
Okay.
because it needs to be a one-on-one thing.
Okay.
Because
Oh.
I'm gonna bring a lot to him. I just like to come in and mess with him every now and then.
Fair.
Well, thanks for.
That's the only reason I
That's
came
all.
in, Wick, to mess with you for a
Well,
second.
I always appreciate it. Seriously, thank you.
Thanks, Origin.
Wait
To the
a minute.
void.
That one guy, you're the last caller, and I'm cutting it off, gang. I'm cutting it off. No more. No more. That one guy will be the last. But you can still give me money to say your thoughts. If you super chat me or you give me bits and subs, I will say the thing. So that one guy, you got a camera for us today?
Sure.
Beautiful.
What's going on?
Yo, what up? What you got?
All right. So I wanted to take it back to like pretty much the first thing I heard, which was something about single gendered schooling. I'm an advocate for kids. I really think a lot of the problems with today's society is just us not raising our kids correctly, not taking the time necessary to plan before having children and really thinking about how we want to go about raising them, especially the partners that we choose. But when it comes down to who kids see as they grow up, the roles that they see genders in, it means a lot. The kids, whether we realize it or not, between 1 to 3 are already thinking about hierarchy systems between race.
Yeah.
They're already thinking about it between genders as well. So if they only see women as teachers, that imprints something on them. I can't tell you what it does, how far it goes, because as an individual basis, it can vary quite extensively between different types of children and different types of places and different types of environments. So doing the statistics and the work on that would just be redundant and ridiculous. But it would also be redundant and ridiculous to only have one gender in schooling, because then at that point you're opening up a lot of issues. Like even boys, all boys schools, they leave and they have no social skills. They leave and they cannot talk to other women. They cannot talk to women in general. They don't know how. And then they end up being some of the most sexist and toxic masculinity that we see in the world, because it's just, that's what they're brought up on. That's all they know. It's not a good idea. Healthy dynamics between genders are breached and brought about by having healthy examples of gender around you. You need both.
Yeah.
What would you say, sir, to the argument, right? Like that women would feel safer amongst just other women. They don't feel safe in a non-segregated space, right? Like they or if we're going to take it off gender and take it to race, there are black individuals who argue that, hey, I think that mixed schools, we get the short end of the stick. So we would like to be in a school where people can understand, like a traditionally black college, for example, would be an example of this, right? Like some black individuals will advocate this, saying, hey, we are only going to get the attention and what we need if it's just us, right? Otherwise, we're just going to get the short end. What would you say to that?
I think that's another thing that's a prime example of something that's tackled on an individual basis. We don't. We live in a society that really like segregates people. It puts you in certain pools. You put yourself in the pools that best fit you. When you're searching for a space as men, you're gonna look for a space that you feel the most comfortable in. And you're gonna feel the most comfortable probably around other men. But that's not the case for all men. I live with one that would prefer to be around women than men. It's just how he is. Unfortunately, he lives with 3 men, but
No.
he prefers to be around women. It's just how it is. We're all going to be different in that way. But I will say, you're more than likely going to be more comfortable with things that look like you. And that's just how it works. Whether they be black or white, male or female, it's just how we work as human beings. Like the first hurdle, I think someone said this in a book. I can't remember the name. Like one of the first hurdles for people was like learning to be comfortable with thy neighbor, and they look like you. They speak the same language as you. They probably the same color as you. The next thing is like being comfortable with thy neighbor when they don't have those things in common, and we still haven't leaped that hurdle yet. So I expect the same thing when it comes to gender ethics, that we're gonna put ourselves in circles that where we feel the most comfortable, and that's okay. Just
Is
remember
it though?
to continue to have a healthy balance.
Like there is an argument to be said that this and this is an argument I personally make, right? That one of the reasons we're seeing a trend line, and it's not the most polarized ever, obviously, but we are more polarized today than we were 20 years ago, right? In a lot of ways, culturally and socially as well as politically. And one of the reasons for that is because it's become so easy to go to our comfort zone, right? To only be in comfortable spaces. We are never put in spaces where I shouldn't say never. It's much more rare today that we are forced to be in uncomfortable spaces than it was 20 years ago, even. Even in our friend groups, it's far easier, and on our social friend groups, even online, to just atomize ourselves and to silo ourselves off. We can literally make people not exist in a way that wasn't possible prior to social media, prior to us using these tools. Now we have such a robust repertoire of tools at our disposal to segregate ourselves into our experiences, to only consume content, only be with people, only be in situations that make us comfortable. And I would argue that is to our detriment. It has hurt us as people, as a society, as a culture, and as individuals. It has made us less able to deal with uncomfortable situations, which, again, try as we might, we will never fully eliminate. And so when people are put into uncomfortable situations, they have less ability to cope with them, and they have much more extreme reactions to them. And I think it does us a disservice. So again, I'm just curious where your level here between comfort and just like putting yourself out there and getting experience.
Like I think at the end, I'd say a healthy balance is a good idea. I
guess,
stand
but
by.
that's my question. Where's the balance? Like, where's the line?
Well, then I think the balance is this is a more difficult one because I think you have to find that balance within yourself. So, like for instance, I grew up in an almost all black environment. I think there was like 3 white kids in my school when I was growing up. And then my grandmother did better for herself. We moved to a place that was a bit more multicultural, to the point where the way that I was used to living, speaking, and socializing with other people wasn't deemed respectful, polite, or good in my new environment. So I had to adapt to that, right? And I also learned a lot because of the new environment that I was in. I met a lot of different people coming from a lot of different lives, so on and so forth. But I was forced into that situation at a young age. And because of that, I changed and evolved a little bit differently than I would have if I would have stayed home, right?
I think that's
it's
benefited
about
you, right? Like that
adaptability.
helped you.
Yeah, most definitely. But also, there's a lot of people in my situation who did not adapt whatsoever. And that became more of a complication for them as I got older and through their years in high school than it did for me. And I think that's another thing that has to do with our upbringing. I had a father that would not tolerate me not having an open mind, me not being able to put myself in someone else's shoes or understand the life that they were going through. At a young age, I already was thinking about what someone else could be thinking about when I did something bad, rather than just being like, oh, I did something bad, or I didn't do anything at all. So I don't, it's on an individual basis, but I think you should always look for a comfortable environment in your life and just find a place that you can go to take yourself out of that space every once in a while, whether it be work, whether it be a hobby that involves you leaving the house, anything, even if on internet spaces like here, like just being on and just being able to talk to different people and hearing other people's opinions. It helps. I'm a people watcher. I didn't even talk to people really that much growing up. I learned and experienced a lot of things just through watching other people learning and experiencing things. And that worked for me. It won't work for everybody. And that's why I don't want to give advice. I don't want to say where I stand. It works differently for each person, but you have to know yourself to know what works best for you.
Hey, I am curious what Fairy Queen and Sulfur think on this issue, right? Like and if you want to keep it to personal anecdotes, that's fine. Or if you want to do data, that's fine. You can tackle answering this question in whatever way you want. But I am curious, like, would you agree that we have, with my take here, that we are overly comfortable now? Or do you disagree? What are you thinking?
I'll let Sulfur go first.
Sure. I think that generally speaking, everyone is really uncomfortable all of the time. However, given, and I say that like more generally, like the moment that anyone has to go outside of the space that they have, the entire world becomes very uncomfortable for people to deal with. And I think much like that one guy was saying, sorry, that's your actual username, I know, but I think like you were saying, it's like all of a sudden when you were kind of thrust into a totally different environment that was more multicultural, um, both your perspective and learning how to like adapt within something so radically different has largely benefited you. I was one of well my high school experience is a little bit weird, but I all of a sudden was in what was basically 200 population school. It was an alternative school for basically the worst of the worst of the worst. It didn't matter if you punched the principal at your school, like they would take you at my school. And the makeup of that was that it was predominantly Black first and second generation Black immigrant kids who were like kids of refugees, basically. And that was wild for me to just kind of like go from what was like art track high school to like thrust into this like behaviorally explosive dynamic, and I did well with it. I felt that kind of being exposed to all of a sudden a group of very different people from very different walks of life all together is honestly how I am the way that I am now. But yeah, like you kind of learn to like code switch in weird ways when everyone is having a really good and fun time, and you already talk like you're from Parkdale, and so then when you go to like talk to someone normally, they're like, why are you so aggressive? It's like, I'm actually not trying to be. This is just how I was like re-educated in speaking colloquially with my peers who are pretty wild. But yeah.
What do you think, Carrie?
So this is just a bit about my schooling. I went to about 3 or 4 different high schools. Let's see, there was Rensselaer, there was Ohio, so 3 different high schools growing up. And that was because of my dad's military career. So I went to high school in Turkey at a Dodge school. I went to a small Catholic private school in Ohio, and then another one where I graduated from school in Omaha. But I also lived overseas for a long time. I was homeschooled. So I also was exposed to a lot of, to many multicultural experiences as well. And I also spent a lot of time growing up in different environments and being exposed to a wide variety of different people. So I won't disagree with you that it is beneficial to be exposed to new experiences, and to being uncomfortable is to be expected, especially when you're in public, right? It's healthy to be exposed to new experiences, to talk to new people, to learn how to interact and to engage with multiple groups of people. Obviously, that's the case. I will also tell you that when we came over from Turkey, from me living most of my young childhood overseas to coming back to the United States was a big hurdle for me. That was a culture shock that was really big and was very difficult for me to come back to the States and to integrate back. I mean, it's difficult even now, like talking to people. Like, it's very, very hard for me to find anyone that has had a similar experience to that. And so the consequence of that is that, so while at the same time I love the experiences that I've had and I feel like they've benefited me, and I think it's important to be exposed to those kinds of experiences, I can also tell you that because I've had those types of experiences, it's been extremely lonely. It's lonely because it's difficult to find other people who have lived similar lives. It's difficult to find literature that's written about your life, right? There isn't a whole lot of literature that's written about military brats growing up and moving around to a ton of different locations, right? There are lots of experiences that it's very difficult to find shared communion with. The consequence of that was that I personally felt very, very lonely. And so when I came back to the United States, I kept interacting with a lot of groups of people who on the sticker on the tin was I was supposed to be just like them, right? Because we're both American, right? Similar background experiences, but our life experiences were not equitable whatsoever, right? So for me personally, while I do think it's important to be uncomfortable, I do think it's important to put yourself out there, to meet new people and to be open to new experiences, I also think that it's healthy to have a small, tight-knit group of friends who can act as a reprieve, right? As a group of people who you can go and you can talk to, you can share this personal experience.
Yeah, obviously,
For
I'm
me,
not saying that you should be uncomfortable all the time and have no haven, no touchstone and things. My argument, simply, is that we have too little forced opportunities where we are put out of our comfort. Like, less so than any other time in history. And I think that's to our detriment. I think that it makes us less able to deal with problems when they arise. And I think that we can see this in the rising rates of mental issues. I see this in the rising rates of loneliness. We see this in the rising rates of, just the vibe session that we're going through right now, right? Like this, while it is good to have these tools, much like food, right? Food's great, but if you overindulge constantly, it's going to be a problem. And I think that we were at a point with social media that social media is new to the human experience, that as a society, as a species, in a very real way, we don't know how to deal with it. Right? We do not know how to deal with always being in touch with everyone all the time, no escape. One of the reasons we see a huge spike in women self-harming themselves, young women doing self-harm to them, is because whereas before they would be bullied at school, but then they'd have a safe space to go home and they'd be fine, they'd be free of it, they wouldn't have to deal with it when they were at home. You're never free of it. You are never free of it. You are always online. Everyone is always online. And it's they can't escape the bullying, right? They can't escape it. They cannot turn it off in a really very real sense. Now, obviously, yes, if they disconnected from their social media presence entirely, they would be able to escape it, but no one is willing to do that for a variety of reasons that I don't think we have the time to get into. And so when the rubber meets the road, what we have is people who are constantly, always, 100% of the time, 24/7, feeling like they have no escape from this. But in order to deal with that, rightly, I think, we have developed a robust suite of tools to make people unexist anymore, and to curate our space in such a way where it's entirely comfortable. And so what I think we're seeing is kind of the pendulum swing of us overusing those tools and just cutting off all pain, right? Pain is good, actually. Pain shows you something is wrong. Pain shows you, oh, there's a problem and I should deal with this. Okay? If you feel pain, you're in danger. You're probably going to die because pain is a warning sign. I think uncomfortability and things like that can serve a similar, if not the same purpose. Is that it acts as maybe there's a problem here, and whether that problem's with the environment or whether it's a problem with how you are dealing with that environment, right? I don't know. It depends on the context. But there is a problem like where we have just, again, overabundance. It's a very first world problem, but it's a very real problem. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes 100% sense. This is why it's so difficult to combating you on it. It's the idea of like a door left half open or left cracked. And it's like you're giving people the option to peek through or to just open up the door all the way and just walk in. You're gonna have people who just walk in. It's just how it works, especially when the door is written trauma avoidance or run away from problems. It's like you're gonna do what best fits for you. I think a lot of things in life, like you just said, with overindulgence can become a vice. That's life. It was life before the internet. Is going to be life long after. It's going to be life no matter what the internet involves into. We always had the ability to turn any and everything into a vice. It's just how you use the things in your life. You have to be more conscious and understanding of what these things do and the role they play in your life. I'm always on the internet, like all the time. But I'm gonna be honest, more than half the time, I'm just listening to people. If I'm not listening to people, I'm looking up the things I want to hear, research I want to know about, a video game, a TV show, somebody else's opinion on something. Like my thing, I'm rarely ever in comment sections. I don't want to be involved in that mess. I don't care about that mess. I hear that mess here, and that's where I get it. Like I know about human interactions already. I don't need to know what it's going to be like with anonymity involved.
WhickTV saving that one guy from comment sections. If I've not done anything else in life, this is proof that I am a positive force on the world.
I'm gonna be honest.
I've saved one soul. If I could save one soul from YouTube comment sections, I've done my job. And by God, I salute you.
You were the first person like in this space I started watching. Like through you, I found out about 𝕾𝖍𝖙 and erudite and funny Destiny Last, which is hilarious. But through that, I actually just found out what
I'm part of the
DGG
Destiny
was
pipeline.
the last time I was on here, and I got to experience what DGG is. So it's like as I'm going through it, I'm like, oh, this is nice and all, but I don't feel like out of place.
Out of like a very selfish curiosity, and please indulge me if you don't mind. So if I'm your introduction to space, how'd you get introduced to me? How'd you stumble across me?
I don't remember what exactly I was looking up because I've always been a fan of like debates and just people talking to each other and most of the time arguing. I don't remember what exactly it was, but I searched live on YouTube, which I rarely ever did. And you popped up. It was you. It was you, and I think 𝕾𝖍𝖙. It was you and 𝕾𝖍𝖙, and I think it might have been Mr. Girl. No, Sunday.
Okay,
Sunday.
me, 𝕾𝖍𝖙, and Sunday.
And I was like, okay, well, this is weird. So then I looked up what you all do individually, and now I'm here.
Okay, well, welcome here. Gang. I hate to cut this short, but it is late. It is a little later than I thought we would go, but I appreciate you all for coming. Gang, big shout out to Sulfur here. Big shout out to Fairy Queen, who were so kind to come kind of last minute and join me on today's spectacle. So I appreciate you. I appreciate all the callers that called in today. It was a robust discussion. Gang, if you like this content, if you've been watching this on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe. Be like that one guy. Let me be the pipeline to the rest of the content, right? I want to be the gateway.
Don't be like me. Don't be like me. He's crazy.
I want to be the gateway drug, okay, of online debates and online things. I want to be a good example, a good starting space. But thank you again for tuning in, and we will see you guys tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern. And Fairy Queen will be joining us, as well as P.F. Young, Daedalus Media, Portland is Burning, and 𝕾𝖍𝖙 from Pondering Politics. And we are going to be having the trial of Whick, part 368. My Atticus Finch is ready to save me from the mob The leftist soy cuck council has declared war on Whick, who is the true one based 𝕾𝖎𝖎 progressive, only true progressive in this space left. And Fairy Queen can prove it.
Yes,
See us in.
absolutely.
We're gonna rate out. Are either of you streaming right now?
Nope.
No.
Okay, well then we will raid that kick out.
Sounds good.
Nice.
Make sure you spam those emotes and let her know that this is a hate raid.
It's a hate raid.
It is a hate raid. We love Sidekick. We hate, but we love at the same time. Oh, she's great. She's great. I kid. But yeah, check her out, gang, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye!
Bye!